The CEO opened her door at midnight wearing nothing but a silk robe. And the man on her doorstep wasn't who she expected. What happened next would either save her empire or destroy everything she'd built. But here's the twist. He was just there to return a box. Welcome to a story about power, betrayal, and the most unlikely alliance you'll ever witness. If you want to see how a single knock on a door changed 2 lives forever, stay until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city name so I can see how far this story travels across the world. The rain had started around 10 o'clock that Tuesday night, turning the streets of Harwick into glossy ribbons of reflected neon and headlights. Caleb Mercer sat in his aging Ford pickup outside the Riverside Apartments, engine idling, watching water stream down the windshield in chaotic patterns that reminded him of everything else in his life. Messy, unpredictable, but somehow still moving forward. In the passenger seat sat a cardboard box, small, unremarkable, wrapped in brown shipping paper that had started to soften from the humidity. It had been sitting in his apartment for 3 days, delivered to Unit 412 instead of 412 Riverside Drive, a mistake that happened more often than the Postal Service cared to admit. Caleb had meant to deal with it sooner, but between his shifts at Morrison Construction, picking up his 7-year-old daughter Maya from school, helping with homework, making dinner, and collapsing into bed only to do it all again, the box had kept getting pushed to tomorrow. But tonight, Maya was at her grandmother's for a sleepover. Tonight, Caleb actually had a few hours to himself. And something about that box, maybe the expensive leather corner he'd glimpsed through a tear in the wrapping, maybe the embossed gold initials EH stamped into what looked like a planner, had been nagging at him. Whoever owned it probably needed it, probably missed it. Caleb wasn't the kind of man who left things unfinished, even small things, especially small things. The small things were what kept the world from falling apart. He killed the engine, grabbed the box, and stepped out into the rain. The address he'd found online had led him here, to Riverside Drive, to the wealthy side of Harwick, where the houses sat back from the street behind iron gates and manicured hedges, where the streetlights were designed to look like vintage gas lamps, where everything whispered old money and new power. Number 412 was a modern masterpiece of glass and steel, all clean lines and carefully calculated angles. Warm light glowed from inside, but the curtains were drawn. A sleek black sedan sat in the circular driveway, water beating on its immaculate finish. This wasn't the kind of neighborhood where a guy in work boots and a rain-soaked jacket belonged, and Caleb felt that knowledge settle into his shoulders as he walked up the flagstone path. He climbed the 3 steps to the front door, raised his hand, and knocked twice. Solid, respectful knocks, the kind that said, "I'm not selling anything. I'm not trouble. I'm just here, and then I'll be gone." For a moment, nothing, just the sound of rain drumming on the roof overhang and the distant hiss of traffic on wet asphalt. Then the door opened fast, so fast it startled him, and Caleb found himself looking at a woman who seemed to exist in a different frequency than the rest of the world. Evelyn Hart stood in the doorway wearing a silk robe the color of midnight, her dark hair still damp and falling just past her shoulders, no makeup, no armor. But her eyes, sharp, intelligent, exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with the hour, scanned him with the kind of assessment usually reserved for contract negotiations and hostile takeovers. She looked like she'd been expecting someone else, someone specific, someone dangerous. "You're not security," she said. Not a question, a statement of fact delivered with the cool precision of someone used to being right. Caleb blinked rain out of his eyes. "No, ma'am, just the guy who got your mail by mistake." He held up the box like an offering. For a split second, her expression shifted, confusion, then recognition, then something harder to read. Her gaze dropped to the package, then back to his face, then past him to the empty driveway and the rain-soaked street beyond. She was looking for someone, or checking that no one had followed him. "I'm sorry for the late hour," Caleb added, suddenly aware of how this must look. Strange man. Midnight. Her alone in a robe. "I can just leave it with you and—" "Come in." She stepped back, opening the door wider. 2 minutes. "Ma'am, I don't need to—" "2 minutes," she repeated, and there was something in her voice that made it clear this wasn't a request born from politeness. This was control. This was a woman who made decisions in microseconds and expected the world to keep up. Caleb hesitated. Every instinct told him to hand over the box and leave. He didn't belong in this world of glass houses and silk robes. He had pancakes to make in the morning, a daughter who'd be home by 8, a life that was simple and stable and his. But he also saw something in Evelyn Hart's eyes that he recognized from his own mirror on the worst days after the divorce, after the custody battle, after the nights when Maya asked why Mommy didn't want to see them anymore. He saw someone holding it together by sheer force of will, someone who couldn't afford to show cracks because the whole structure might collapse. So he stepped inside. The interior of the house hit him immediately, not with warmth, but with precision. Everything was curated, expensive, beautiful in the way museum exhibits were beautiful. Spotless hardwood floors, minimalist furniture in shades of cream and charcoal, abstract art on the walls that probably cost more than his truck. But it didn't feel lived in. It felt like a showroom, like a place designed to impress rather than comfort. Evelyn closed the door behind him with a soft click that somehow felt final. "The box," she said, gesturing toward a marble-topped console table near the entrance. Caleb set it down carefully. Postal Service mixed up the addresses. "Sorry it took me a few days to get it here. Work's been—" His words died as he caught sight of the room beyond the entryway. It was an office, or had been. Now it looked like a war room in the middle of a siege. Papers covered the floor in careful arrangements that suggested organization born from chaos. A laptop sat open on a glass desk, multiple windows visible even from this distance. File folders were stacked in precarious towers. And on the coffee table, 3 phones lay in a row, all of them dark except for one that suddenly lit up with an incoming call. The name on the screen, Grant Mitchell. Evelyn's jaw tightened. She didn't move to answer it. The phone buzzed once, twice, 3 times, then went dark. 10 seconds later, it lit up again. Same name. "They won't stop," Evelyn said, so quietly Caleb almost didn't hear it. The words weren't meant for him. They were the kind of thing you say when you're alone and exhausted and the walls are the only witnesses. They just won't stop. She seemed to realize she'd spoken aloud. Her posture straightened, that mask of control sliding back into place. "Thank you for returning the planner. I apologize for the inconvenience." It was a dismissal. Polite, final, absolute. Caleb should have taken it, should have nodded, wished her a good night, and walked back out into the rain. Should have driven home, made himself a sandwich, watched TV until he fell asleep on the couch, like he did most nights Maya was away. Instead, his gaze drifted to the front windows and caught on something that made his contractor's brain itch with concern. Through the glass, visible in the glow of the porch light, the fixture itself was flickering, not the romantic flicker of candlelight, but the irregular sputter of faulty wiring. And from this angle, Caleb could see the casing around the wire connection, loose and partially exposed. In dry weather, it was a code violation. In rain like this, it was a hazard. The kind of problem people ignored until it became a fire or an electrocution. "Your porch light's about to be a problem," he said, nodding toward the window. Evelyn followed his gaze, frowning slightly. "It's been doing that for weeks. I've been meaning to call someone. The casing's loose, wires exposed. You get any wind with this rain that could arc and short the whole exterior circuit. Or worse." She stared at the flickering light, then at him, clearly running calculations he couldn't see. "How much worse?" "Fire. Electrical burns if you touch it wrong. Property damage, the usual fun stuff." Another phone started buzzing. A different one this time. Evelyn's eyes flicked to it, something dark crossing her expression. Frustration, anger, bone-deep weariness. "I can fix it," Caleb heard himself say. "I do this kind of work, 10 minutes, tops. I've got tools in the truck." The silence that followed was weighted with assessment. Evelyn Hart looked at him, really looked, taking in the calluses on his hands, the worn canvas jacket, the mud on his boots, the honest directness in his face that probably made him the worst poker player in Harwick. "Why?" she asked simply. It was the question under all questions. Why would a stranger offer to fix her porch light at midnight in the rain? What did he want? What was the angle, the play, the hidden cost? Caleb shrugged. "Because it needs fixing. Because I can. Because leaving it broken seems wrong." Something shifted in her expression. Not trust, not yet, but a hairline crack in the armor. 10 minutes? Maybe 15 if the screws are rusted, but yeah. Evelyn studied him for another moment, then gave a single, decisive nod. "Fine. 10 minutes. The rain had intensified to a steady downpour by the time Caleb retrieved his toolbox from the truck. He worked quickly, efficiently, the muscle memory of 15 years in construction guiding his hands. Kill the circuit at the breaker. Evelyn had to show him where the electrical panel was, hidden behind a piece of art in the hallway. Remove the old fixture casing, inspect the wiring, strip the damaged section. Reconnect properly. Weatherproof the junction. Secure the new casing he kept in his emergency kit for exactly these situations. The whole time, he was aware of Evelyn standing in the doorway behind him, watching. Not hovering, not micromanaging, just present. She'd thrown a long coat over the robe and held a coffee mug in both hands, though he noticed she never actually drank from it. "You do this for a living?" she asked after a few minutes of silence. "Construction mostly. Residential, some commercial. But yeah, electrical work is part of it." Caleb tightened the final screw, testing the connection. "I'm not an electrician, but I'm certified for basic residential stuff." "How long have you been doing it?" 15 years, give or take. Started as a laborer right out of high school, worked my way up. He flipped the circuit back on, and the porch light blazed to life. Steady, bright, no flicker. "There we go. That should hold." "Thank you." Caleb climbed down from the small stepladder he'd brought, wiping his hands on a rag. "No problem. Just remember to check your exterior fixtures every few months, especially after storms. Prevents this kind of thing." He started packing his tools, expecting that to be the end of it. The job was done. The debt, if there had ever been one, was paid. He'd return home, take a hot shower, and forget about the woman in the glass house who looked like she was fighting a war nobody else could see. But then Evelyn said something that stopped him cold. "You're hungry." It wasn't a question. It was a statement of fact delivered with the same certainty she'd used when she said he wasn't security. And the strange thing was, she was right. He'd skipped dinner, planning to grab something after dropping off the box. That had been 3 hours ago. "I'm fine," he said automatically. "I have food. Too much food, actually. My assistant keeps sending meal deliveries, even though I keep telling her I don't need them." Evelyn paused, and for the first time since he'd met her, she looked uncertain. "Stay. Eat. It's the least I can do after you fix that disaster waiting to happen." Every rational part of Caleb's brain screamed at him to decline politely and leave. He didn't know this woman. This wasn't his world. He had no business sitting down to dinner with a CEO in a house that probably cost more than he'd make in his entire lifetime. But there was something in the way she asked, something that felt less like obligation and more like she was testing whether human connection still worked the way it used to. Like she'd been alone in this glass fortress for so long that she'd forgotten what it felt like to just sit across from another person and share a meal. And Caleb Mercer, single father, construction worker, man who rebuilt his life from scratch after everything fell apart, knew exactly what that loneliness felt like. "Okay," he said, "but I should probably leave my boots by the door." The kitchen was as pristine as the rest of the house. All stainless steel appliances, marble countertops, and a wine fridge that probably cost more than Caleb's entire living room furniture set. Evelyn moved through it with surprising efficiency, pulling containers from the refrigerator, setting them on the counter, checking their contents with the quick assessment of someone who'd learned to make decisions fast and trust them. "Rosemary chicken, roasted vegetables, fresh bread from that bakery on 5th, she narrated, almost to herself. "My assistant has excellent taste and no concept of portion control for one person." "Smells incredible," Caleb said honestly. And it did. The kind of sophisticated home cooking he'd seen in magazines but never actually experienced. "Plates are in that cabinet. Silverware in the drawer below. Make yourself useful." It was an order, but delivered without edge. Caleb found himself smiling slightly as he set the table. There was something oddly comfortable about the dynamic. Two people who didn't know each other, working in the kind of synchronized silence that usually took years to develop. Within 15 minutes, the kitchen smelled like warmth and herbs and possibility. They sat across from each other at a dining table that could have seated 10, and for a moment neither of them spoke. Just ate. And that silence wasn't awkward. It was steady. It was real. "You mentioned a daughter earlier," Evelyn said eventually, breaking bread with careful precision. "When you were explaining about the delivery delay." Caleb nodded, swallowing. "Maya. She's 7. Smart as hell and stubborn as concrete." "Gets that from you?" Gets that from her mother, actually. I'm the pushover. He smiled, but there was weight behind it. She's with her grandmother tonight, sleepover. Hence why I'm delivering packages at midnight instead of reading bedtime stories. Single father? For 3 years now. Divorce finalized when Maya was 4. Caleb took a drink of water, washing down the words that always tasted bitter. Her mother, she wanted different things, a different life. One that didn't include waking up to a crying kid or living in a one-bedroom apartment while I finished my certifications. So she left, signed away custody without a fight. Haven't heard from her since. Evelyn's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes sharpened with recognition. The recognition of someone who understood what it meant to be left, to be chosen against. That must be difficult, raising a child alone. Some days are harder than others, but Maya makes it worth it. She's the reason I get up in the morning, the reason I work doubles when I need to, the reason I fix porch lights at midnight instead of just ignoring strange boxes in my apartment. Because you're teaching her that things worth doing are worth doing right? Caleb looked up, surprised. Yeah, exactly that. They ate in silence for a moment, and Caleb realized he was genuinely curious about this woman. Not about her money or her house or her obvious power, but about the person underneath. The one who looked so tired, the one whose phones wouldn't stop buzzing with calls she wouldn't answer. Can I ask what you do? He said. I mean, I could probably Google it, but you haven't. Seemed rude, and honestly, I don't usually care much about what people do for work. I care more about whether they're decent humans. Evelyn set down her fork with careful deliberation. I run a tech company, Hard Analytics. We specialize in data security and corporate risk management. Started it 12 years ago in my apartment with a laptop and a business loan I probably shouldn't have been approved for. Now we employ 400 people and contract with half the Fortune 500. So you're kind of a big deal. I'm kind of a target. The words came out harder than she probably intended. Evelyn took a breath, visibly pulling back. Sorry, that was true? Caleb offered gently. She met his eyes, and in that moment, the mask fell completely. What he saw underneath was frightening in its rawness, anger, fear, exhaustion, determination burning so hot it could melt steel. There are people who want what I've built, Evelyn said quietly. People who think they can take it because I'm a woman, because I started from nothing, because I don't play their games or bow to their threats. They're circling, closer every day, and I'm... She stopped herself, jaw tightening. I'm fighting a war most people don't even know is happening. Caleb didn't offer platitudes, didn't tell her it would be okay or that she was strong enough to handle it. People like Evelyn Hart didn't need cheerleaders. They needed someone to witness the truth without flinching. How bad? He asked simply. Bad enough that I've hired private security for my office. Bad enough that I don't sleep more than 3 hours a night. Bad enough that every phone call could be the one telling me they've won. She picked up her wine glass. When had she poured wine? And took a long drink. A board member named Grant Mitchell is leading the charge. He wants me out. Wants to install himself or one of his puppets as CEO, strip the company for parts, sell it off piece by piece to his friends. He's been building a case for months, gathering votes, making promises, threatening anyone who might support me. That's legal? Corporate warfare rarely cares about legality, just plausible deniability. Evelyn's smile was sharp enough to cut. But I've been building my own case. Evidence, documentation, things that would end him if they came to light. The question is whether I can deploy them before he deploys his. Caleb leaned back in his chair, processing. This was so far outside his world of lumber and drywall and electrical codes that it might as well have been happening on another planet. But the fundamental truth underneath was familiar. Someone powerful trying to take what someone else had built. Someone fighting to protect what mattered. Why not go to the authorities, the SEC, or whoever handles corporate crime? Because by the time they investigate, the damage is done. Companies like mine live and die on reputation and investor confidence. If Grant manages to create enough doubt, enough scandal, the truth won't matter. The board will force me out to stabilize things. And by the time I'm exonerated, if I ever am, Hart Analytics will belong to someone else. That's ruthless? Welcome to high-stakes business. Evelyn refilled her wine glass, then seemed to realize what she was doing and set the bottle down firmly. I'm sorry. You came here to return a box, not listen to my corporate nightmares. I stayed for dinner, Caleb pointed out, which means I'm choosing to be here. And for what it's worth, your nightmare sounds like it needs more people on your side. Something in her expression softened. I have lawyers, security consultants, a PR firm on retainer. What I don't have is... She trailed off, searching for words. Someone who isn't getting paid to care? Someone who isn't part of the machine. Evelyn looked at him with something close to wonder. You have no idea who I am, what I'm worth, what connections I have. You're not impressed by any of this. She gestured at the house, the expensive everything surrounding them. Are you? Caleb considered lying, considered saying the right thing, the polite thing. Instead, he told the truth. I'm impressed you built something from nothing. I'm impressed you're fighting to keep it, but the house, the stuff? No, that's just money. Money doesn't tell me who you are. He met her eyes steadily. The fact that you let a stranger fix your porch light because it needed fixing? The fact that you're feeding me instead of sending me away? The fact that you're exhausted but still standing? That impresses me. The silence that followed was different from before. It was charged, weighted, full of something neither of them had words for yet. Evelyn opened her mouth to respond, and that's when the headlights swept across the windows. Both of them froze. The warm kitchen atmosphere evaporated instantly, replaced by something cold and sharp. Through the front windows, Caleb could see a car pulling into the driveway. Expensive, dark, moving with the kind of confidence that didn't ask permission. Evelyn's entire posture changed. Not fear. He saw no fear in her. But every muscle tensed, every soft edge hardened. This was the CEO. This was the warrior. This was the woman who'd built an empire and would burn the world down before she let someone steal it. You should go, she said, standing up so fast her chair scraped against the floor. Now, out the back. Who is it? Someone who shouldn't be here. Someone who... The front door opened, didn't knock, didn't ring the bell, just opened, like whoever was on the other side had a key or didn't care about locks or boundaries or basic human decency. A man stepped inside, bringing with him the scent of expensive cologne and entitlement. He was tall, mid-50s, wearing a tailored jacket that probably cost more than Caleb's monthly rent. His hair was silver at the temples in that way that looked calculated rather than natural, and his eyes, sharp, cold, assessing, swept the room until they landed on the kitchen. On Evelyn. On Caleb. His expression flickered through surprise, calculation, and settled on amusement, the kind of amusement predators show when they've cornered something unexpected. Evelyn, he said smoothly, like he hadn't just broken into her home. Working late? Evelyn's voice, when she spoke, could have frozen nitrogen. You're not supposed to be here, Grant. Grant Mitchell, because of course this was Grant Mitchell, the man trying to steal her company, smiled with absolutely no warmth. I still have a key from when I was on the House Security Committee. You remember? When we were installing the updated system last year, that access was supposed to be revoked. Apparently there was an oversight. He walked further into the house like he owned it, his gaze sliding back to Caleb with naked assessment. And who is this? Caleb stood up slowly, not aggressive, but not backing down either. He dealt with men like this before, not in boardrooms, but on job sites where foremen thought their position meant they could push around the guys actually doing the work. Men who measured worth in dollars and power instead of character and competence. Just someone fixing a light, Caleb said evenly. Grant's smile sharpened. At this hour? How convenient. He looked back at Evelyn. Really, Evelyn, I thought you'd have better judgment. Letting strangers into your home? In your current situation? The implication hung in the air like poison. Like Caleb was a threat. Like his presence here was somehow scandalous or inappropriate. Like Evelyn was doing something wrong by existing in her own home. Mr. Mitchell, Evelyn said, and her voice had dropped to that deadly calm that probably made lawyers nervous. You need to leave. Whatever you think you're accomplishing by showing up uninvited, I'm accomplishing exactly what I intended. Grant pulled out his phone, tapped something, and Caleb saw the screen light up with a photo. A photo of this house, this kitchen. Taken from outside, through the windows. Recent enough that Caleb and Evelyn were visible at the table. Just wanted to ensure our CEO is maintaining appropriate professional standards. You understand. Shareholders get concerned when leadership makes questionable personal choices. The threat was clear, crystal clear. He was building a narrative, creating evidence of impropriety that didn't exist. Manufacturing scandal from innocence. Caleb felt anger rise in his chest, the kind of anger that came from watching someone twist truth into weapons. But before he could speak, Evelyn stepped forward, putting herself between Grant and Caleb in a move so subtle it almost looked accidental. "Get out of my house," she said quietly. "Now." "Or what? You'll call security?" Grant's laugh was silk over razors. "Please do. I'd love to explain to them why you're entertaining strange men while corporate matters are pending. I'm sure the board would find that very interesting during our emergency meeting next week." He turned to go, then paused at the door, looking back at Caleb with eyes that calculated exactly how much damage this moment could cause. "People like you shouldn't get involved in things you don't understand," Grant said pleasantly. "Tends to end badly." Then he was gone, the door clicking shut behind him with ominous finality. For a long moment, neither Evelyn nor Caleb moved. The house felt different now, violated, unsafe, like a sanctuary that had been breached and would never feel secure again. Finally, Evelyn let out a breath she'd been holding and pressed her palms against the counter, head bowed. "I'm sorry you saw that. I'm sorry he—" "Don't apologize for him being an asshole." She looked up, surprised. Caleb crossed his arms. "That's what he is, right? An asshole with power who's trying to intimidate you, who just broke into your house and took photos to use against you." He shook his head. "You don't need to apologize for that. He'll use this. The photo. The narrative." Evelyn's hands were shaking slightly, the first crack in her armor Caleb had seen. "He'll tell the board I'm unstable, making poor decisions, fraternizing inappropriately. It doesn't matter that it's not true. It just has to sound true enough. Then tell them the truth. A guy returned your mail and fixed a safety hazard. That's it. The truth doesn't matter in my world. Perception matters. And Grant is very good at controlling perception." She met his eyes, and Caleb saw genuine fear there for the first time. Not fear of Grant, fear of losing everything she'd built. "They're coming for my company. And they don't fight clean." Caleb thought about Maya, about the custody battle where his ex-wife's lawyers had twisted every moment of his life into evidence of inadequacy. How they'd tried to make his work hours into neglect, his one-bedroom apartment into poverty, his fierce love for his daughter into obsession. How he'd won anyway, not because he had better lawyers, but because he refused to let lies become truth. "What do you need?" he asked simply. Evelyn blinked. "What?" "Right now. Tonight. What do you need?" The question seemed to break something in her. She laughed, but it was the laugh of someone who'd forgotten what genuine offers of help felt like. "I need Grant Mitchell to disappear. I need the board to remember why they hired me. I need proof that stands up in court and the time to deploy it before he deploys his." She ran a hand through her damp hair. "I need things you can't give me." "Maybe. But what do you need tonight?" The distinction seemed to reach her. She looked around the kitchen, at the half-eaten dinner, the wine bottle, the mess that proved humans actually lived here instead of just existing in beautiful efficiency. "Honestly, I need to not be alone in this house while Grant has a key and uses it whenever he wants. I need to feel like someone gives a damn whether I disappear tomorrow." Her voice cracked slightly. "I need to remember what it feels like when someone helps without wanting something in return." Caleb checked his watch. Almost 1 in the morning. Maya wouldn't be home until 8. He had time. "I can change your locks," he said. "Front door, back door, whatever other entrances you have. I've got the tools and the hardware in my truck. Keep spare deadbolts for emergency jobs. Take me maybe 90 minutes to do it right. And when I'm done, Grant Mitchell won't have access to your house anymore." Evelyn stared at him. "You would do that? At 1 in the morning? You fed me excellent chicken. Seems like a fair trade." He smiled slightly. "Plus, I really don't like people who break into houses and take creepy photos. Call it a personality flaw." For the first time since Grant had arrived, something in Evelyn's expression lightened. Not quite hope. She was too practical for hope, but something close. The recognition that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't as alone as she'd thought. Okay, she said. Change my locks. They worked through the night, Caleb drilling out old lock cylinders, installing new deadbolts, replacing strike plates, while Evelyn followed with a notepad documenting everything for her security company. They didn't talk much beyond the practical necessities of the work, but the silence between them had shifted into something almost comfortable. Two people working toward a common goal. Two people choosing to trust each other in small, incremental ways. By the time Caleb finished the last lock, installed the final security chain, and tested every entrance twice, the sky was starting to lighten toward dawn. His hands ached, his shoulders were tight, and he'd need approximately a gallon of coffee to function later. But every door in Evelyn Hart's house was now secured with brand new locks that only she had keys to. He found her in the kitchen, making coffee with the kind of precision she probably brought to everything. 2 cups already poured. All done, Caleb reported. Front door, back door, side entrance, garage access. New deadbolts, new keys, old locks completely removed so there's no chance of duplicate keys working. You're secure. Evelyn handed him a cup of coffee. Thank you, I mean that. You didn't have to. I know. That's why I did it. She smiled. A real smile this time, not the careful mask she wore for the world. You're either the kindest person I've met in years, or the most naive. But can I be both? In my experience, kindness and naivety are usually the same thing. Then your experience has been with the wrong people. Evelyn studied him over the rim of her coffee cup, and Caleb had the distinct sensation of being evaluated by someone who made million-dollar decisions before breakfast. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why did you really stay tonight? And don't say it was the chicken. Caleb considered the question seriously. Thought about Maya, about rebuilding a life from scratch, about knowing what it felt like when the world decided you weren't worth fighting for. Because you needed help and I could give it, he said finally. Because I've been in situations where I felt alone and under attack, and I remembered how much it mattered when someone showed up anyway. Because Grant Mitchell pissed me off and I'm petty enough to enjoy ruining his day. He paused. And because you seem like someone worth knowing, the real you, not the CEO version. Evelyn set down her coffee cup very carefully. You realize this is going to get messier, right? Grant won't stop. The board meeting is in 6 days. Whatever evidence I have, I need to deploy it perfectly, or I lose everything. And anyone associated with me becomes collateral damage. I fix houses for a living. I'm pretty good with messy. This isn't drywall, Caleb. This is corporate warfare. Reputations destroyed, lives ruined, lawyers and money and power you can't imagine. If Grant decides you're a threat or an asset or just useful leverage, then I'll deal with it. Caleb met her eyes steadily. I'm not asking to fight your war for you. I'm not trying to be some hero who rides in and saves the day. But I can change locks, fix lights, show up when you need someone to show up. Sometimes that's enough. The silence that followed was weighted with all the things neither of them were saying. About connection and timing and the strange alchemy that happens when two people meet at exactly the moment they need each other most. Finally, Evelyn nodded once. Okay. Okay? Okay, you can show up, but on one condition. What's that? Don't treat me like I'm fragile. Don't try to protect me from my own battles. Don't decide what I can or can't handle. Her voice was firm, clear, absolutely certain. I've spent 12 years fighting for respect in rooms full of men who thought I needed protecting. What I actually need is someone who trusts me to fight my own fights while being there if I fall. Caleb smiled. I can do that. Good. Evelyn glanced at the window where dawn was painting the sky in shades of gold and amber. You should go. Get some sleep. Your daughter will be home soon. Yeah. He set down his empty cup, suddenly aware of how exhausted he was. Call me if you need anything else fixed, or if Grant shows up again, or just... He pulled out his wallet, extracted a business card that had seen better days. Just call. For whatever. Evelyn took the card, studying it like it was evidence in a trial. Caleb Mercer, Morrison Construction. You have terrible handwriting. Years of writing on lumber with grease pencils ruins your penmanship. She walked him to the door, the one he'd just secured with a brand new deadbolt, watched as he gathered his tools, as he stepped out into the morning air that smelled like rain and possibility. Caleb? He turned back. Thank you, Evelyn said quietly. Not just for the locks, for... She seemed to search for the right words. For seeing me. The actual me. It's been a while since anyone bothered. Then they're idiots. The actual you is the impressive part. He left her standing in the doorway of her glass fortress, holding a business card and a new set of keys, looking like someone who just remembered what it felt like to trust another human being. Caleb drove home as the sun rose over Harwick, painting the wet streets in liquid gold. He was exhausted, behind on sleep, and had somehow gotten himself tangled in the life of a CEO, fighting a war he barely understood. But as he pulled into his apartment complex, as he climbed the stairs to Unit 412, as he stood in his quiet living room that still held Maya's toys and artwork and all the beautiful chaos of their life together, he realized something fundamental had shifted. He'd walked into that glass house expecting to drop off a box and leave. Instead, he'd found someone who needed the same thing he'd needed 3 years ago when his world fell apart. Someone who showed up anyway. And Caleb Mercer knew better than most that sometimes showing up was everything. Caleb managed 3 hours of sleep before Maya came bounding through the door at 8:15, her grandmother trailing behind with the exhausted but satisfied expression of someone who'd survived a sleepover with a 7-year-old. Dad, we made pancakes shaped like dinosaurs and watched 2 movies, and Grandma let me stay up until 10. Maya launched herself at him, all wild curls and unstoppable energy. Caleb caught her mid-flight, spinning her around despite the fact that every muscle in his body was screaming for rest. Dinosaur pancakes? That's pretty epic. They were huge, like this big. Maya spread her arms as wide as they could go, which in her estimation probably meant the size of actual prehistoric creatures. That's amazing, sweetheart. He set her down, looking up at his mother. Thanks, Mom. I hope she wasn't too much trouble. She's never trouble. His mother, Susan Mercer, a woman who'd raised 3 boys and still had energy to spare, gave him a long, assessing look. You look exhausted. Late night? Had to drop something off. Took longer than expected. Susan's tone suggested she didn't quite believe that was the whole story, but she was kind enough not to press. Well, I'll leave you 2 to your morning. Maya, remember what we talked about? Clean up my toys before bedtime and be nice to Dad, even when he makes me eat vegetables, Maya recited dutifully. Good girl. Susan kissed her granddaughter's head, squeezed Caleb's shoulder in that way mothers do when they're worried but trying not to show it, and left them to their Sunday. The rest of the day unfolded in the comfortable chaos that Caleb had built his life around, making actual pancakes, normal size, no dinosaurs, helping Maya with a school project about butterflies, fixing the wobbly leg on her desk chair, playing 3 rounds of her current favorite board game, making spaghetti for dinner. Normal, simple. His. But his mind kept drifting back to that glass house on Riverside Drive, to Evelyn Hart standing in her kitchen at dawn, holding new keys like they were some kind of lifeline, to the look in her eyes when she'd said thank you for seeing her. He told himself it was just residual adrenaline from the encounter with Grant Mitchell, just the normal human response to witnessing someone under attack. Nothing more. His phone didn't ring that night, or Monday, or Tuesday. By Wednesday, Caleb had almost convinced himself that the entire thing had been a strange detour, a midnight adventure that happened and ended and didn't need follow-up. Evelyn Hart had her new locks, her security, her corporate war to fight. He had his daughter and his job and his uncomplicated life. Then Thursday morning, his phone buzzed during breakfast. The text was from an unknown number. Gate at property malfunctioning. Won't close properly. Security concern. Can you look at it today? We'll pay your standard rate plus emergency fee. EH. Caleb stared at the message for a long moment. The smart thing would be to recommend a proper security company, to maintain boundaries, to not get further entangled in a situation that was already more complicated than anything he usually dealt with. He texted back, "Can be there by 2 p.m. No emergency fee necessary." The response came 30 seconds later. 2 p.m. works, thank you. Maya was at school until 3. He had time. The house looked different in afternoon sunlight, less like a fortress, more like an architectural statement. The gate in question was indeed malfunctioning, hanging slightly crooked on its track, the motor grinding with a sound that made Caleb wince. Someone had tried to force it closed recently, bending the guide rail. Evelyn answered the door in business attire this time. Sharp gray suit, hair pulled back, minimal makeup that somehow made her look more formidable rather than less. The CEO armor was fully deployed. "Thank you for coming on short notice," she said, professional and distant. "The gate's been like this since yesterday. Security company can't come until next week." "Let me take a look." The problem was straightforward. The rail had been bent, probably by someone trying to force entry, and the motor's safety sensor kept cutting out because it detected the obstruction. Caleb spent 40 minutes realigning the track, adjusting the motor tension, and replacing a sensor that had been damaged. Evelyn watched from the porch, laptop open, typing rapidly between phone calls that all sounded tense and carefully controlled. Caleb caught fragments, board position, shareholder votes, documentation timeline. The war was clearly escalating. When he finished, she walked down to inspect his work, testing the gate's motion with a remote. It slid closed smoothly, locked with a solid click. "Perfect. What do I owe you?" "Standard hourly rate. Call it $80. Evelyn pulled out her phone, and his buzzed a moment later with a payment notification. "For $200. "That's too much," Caleb said. "It's exactly right for emergency response time." Her tone left no room for argument. "Plus, I'm going to need you to come back tomorrow. The deck railing is loose, and I'm having clients here this weekend. Can't have anyone leaning on unstable structures." It wasn't really a question, but the way she asked it, like she was testing whether he'd show up again, whether the other night had been a one-time thing or the beginning of something more consistent, made Caleb realize this wasn't actually about deck railings. "What time?" he asked. "Afternoon again? 3 o'clock? I'll be here." Something in her expression softened slightly. "Good." That became the pattern over the next week. Small jobs, reasonable excuses, a warped door frame, a leaking faucet in the guest bathroom, loose stones in the walkway that could be a tripping hazard. Each job legitimate, each one something that genuinely needed fixing. But Caleb understood what was really happening. Evelyn was building a perimeter of small repairs, creating reasons to have someone around who wasn't part of the corporate machinery trying to destroy her. And each time he came, they talked. Not long conversations, she was clearly drowning in preparation for the board meeting, but enough for Caleb to piece together the full picture of what she was facing. Grant Mitchell had assembled a coalition of 4 board members out of 9. He needed 5 votes to force Evelyn out. The swing vote was a man named Robert Chen, a venture capitalist who'd been one of Heart Analytics' earliest investors. Robert was apparently old school, traditional, the kind of man who valued stability and reputation above all else. "Grant's been feeding him stories," Evelyn explained one afternoon while Caleb reinforced the deck railing, "painting me as erratic, unstable, making risky decisions. The photo he took, of you and me having dinner, is apparently evidence of my questionable judgment." Caleb tightened a bolt with more force than strictly necessary. "That's bullshit. That's corporate politics. Truth is negotiable. Perception is everything." She leaned against the railing, the part he'd already secured, and stared out at her precisely landscaped yard. "Robert wants to meet with me before the vote. Friday evening. Dinner at his club." "That's good, right? Chance to make your case?" "It's a test. Grant will be there too, playing the concerned colleague. Robert will watch how we interact, judge whether I'm stable enough to lead through difficult transitions." Her voice dripped with sarcasm. "I have to be perfect, calm, confident, unshakable. One wrong word and I lose his vote. No pressure. Just my entire life's work on the line." Evelyn's laugh was brittle. "Standard Thursday." Caleb paused his work, looking at her directly. "You're going to win this. You know that, right?" "I know I have a chance. That's not the same thing. You built this company from nothing. You've got evidence of Grant's corruption. You're smarter than he is, and you actually care about the people who work for you. That counts for something." "Does it?" The question was genuine, almost vulnerable. "I used to think competence mattered. Results. Innovation. Turns out what really matters is who tells the better story." "Then tell yours. The real one. Not the sanitized version Grant expects." Evelyn studied him for a long moment. "You really believe it's that simple?" "I believe people recognize truth when they hear it. Even people like Robert Chen." Caleb returned to the railing, testing each connection point. "And I believe you didn't build a 400-person company by being easy to break." The silence that followed was thoughtful rather than heavy. Finally, Evelyn said, "The railing's fixed?" "Yeah. Reinforced the weak points, replaced the rotted section, added extra support brackets. Should hold for years now." "Good. Come inside. I need your opinion on something." The something turned out to be her presentation for the board meeting. Evelyn had spread documents across her dining table, financial reports, growth projections, testimony from employees, email chains that apparently proved Grant's misconduct. It was comprehensive, devastating, exactly the kind of evidence that should end a person's career. "Walk me through it," Caleb said. "Pretend I'm Robert Chen." For the next hour, Evelyn practiced her presentation while Caleb listened, asked questions, pointed out places where she sounded defensive instead of confident, where she buried her best points under corporate jargon. He didn't understand half the business terminology, but he understood storytelling. He understood how to make people care. "You keep talking about market share and revenue growth," he said finally, "but you're not talking about why you started this company, what you were trying to build. Because boards don't care about mission statements, they care about returns. Robert Chen put money into your company when you had nothing but a laptop and a dream. He's not just about returns, or he would have pulled out years ago when bigger, safer investments came along." Caleb tapped the table for emphasis. "Tell him why it matters. Not the money, the work. The people. What gets you out of bed in the morning besides fear of losing everything?" Evelyn sat down heavily, suddenly looking exhausted. "I started Hard Analytics because I was tired of watching companies treat data security like an afterthought. Tired of seeing small businesses destroyed by breaches they couldn't prevent because they couldn't afford enterprise-level protection. I wanted to build something that leveled the playing field, made real security accessible." She laughed quietly. "That sounds naive, doesn't it? That sounds like something worth fighting for. Grant wants to gut that division, says it's not profitable enough. He'd rather focus exclusively on Fortune 500 contracts, maximize margins, cut anything that doesn't generate immediate returns." Her hands clenched into fists. He'd turn Hart Analytics into just another corporate security firm that only serves people who can already afford to protect themselves. "Then tell Robert that. Tell him what you'll lose if Grant wins. Not just market position or revenue, the actual mission. The reason any of this matters." Evelyn met his eyes, and Caleb saw something shift in her expression. Not hope exactly, but determination sharpened by clarity. "You're right. You're absolutely right. I usually am. It's a gift and a curse." She smiled, genuinely smiled, for the first time that afternoon. "Stay for dinner?" "Can't. Maya has soccer practice at 6, and I promised I'd be there early to help her with penalty kicks." "Rain check?" "Definitely." As Caleb gathered his tools and headed for the door, Evelyn called after him. "Caleb, thank you. For this. For all of it." "Just fixing what needs fixing," he said, but they both knew he wasn't talking about deck railings anymore. Friday arrived with the weight of inevitability. Caleb spent the morning on a job site, the afternoon picking up Maya from school, and the evening trying not to check his phone every 5 minutes to see if Evelyn had texted. She hadn't. She was probably at Robert Chen's club right now, sitting across from Grant Mitchell, fighting for her company with nothing but words and evidence and the desperate hope that truth still mattered. Caleb made dinner, helped Maya with her spelling homework, read her 2 chapters of her current favorite book, and tucked her into bed with the elaborate ritual of stuffed animal arrangement that she insisted upon. "Dad?" Maya said sleepily as he was turning off the light. "Yeah, sweetheart." "You've been happy this week. Different happy." Caleb paused in the doorway. "Different how?" "Like when you used to smile at Mommy before she went away, but better because you're not sad after." The observation hit him harder than it should have. Kids saw things adults tried to hide. They recognized patterns, remembered what happy used to look like. "I made a new friend," he said carefully. "Someone who needed help with some things." "Is she nice?" "Very nice, and very strong." "Good. You should have strong friends." Maya yawned hugely. "Love you, Dad." "Love you too, Butterfly. Sleep well." He was halfway through the dishes when his phone finally buzzed. The text was short. "It went well, I think. Robert asked good questions. Grant looked uncomfortable. Won't know the outcome until Monday's vote, but I feel like I was actually heard. Thank you for the advice. It helped. Caleb found himself smiling at the screen like an idiot. He typed back, "Glad to hear it. You've got this." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "Would you want to come over tomorrow? No repairs needed. Just company. Maya's welcome too if you'd rather not leave her." Something in Caleb's chest expanded with warmth. This was different from the other invitations. This wasn't about fixing things or finding excuses. This was Evelyn asking for him, specifically, just to be there. "We'd like that," he wrote. "What time? Noon? I'll make lunch. Does Maya eat anything besides dinosaur-shaped pancakes? She's 7. Her culinary preferences are a mystery even to me, but she's usually good about trying new things. Perfect. See you tomorrow." Saturday dawned clear and bright, one of those early spring days that felt like a promise. Maya was excited about visiting Caleb's new friend, though her excitement manifested mostly in changing outfits 4 times and insisting on bringing a backpack full of toys in case there's nothing to do. The drive to Riverside Drive felt different in daylight, with his daughter chattering in the back seat about her upcoming butterfly project presentation. Normal. Like something that could become routine rather than extraordinary. Evelyn answered the door in jeans and a soft sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders, looking more relaxed than Caleb had ever seen her. She knelt down to Maya's level immediately. "Hi, Maya. I'm Evelyn. Your dad's told me a lot about you." Maya studied her with the intense scrutiny children employ when meeting important adults. "Did he tell you about my butterfly project? He mentioned you're learning about monarchs, and swallowtails and painted ladies and mourning cloaks." Maya's enthusiasm was unstoppable. "Did you know butterflies taste with their feet? I did not know that. That's fascinating. It's so cool. They land on flowers and taste if it's good, and then they eat with their mouths, which are like straws." "Maya, breathe," Caleb interjected gently. "Give Ms. Hart a chance to invite us inside. Please, call me Evelyn." She stood, gesturing them in. "And I'd love to hear more about butterflies. I actually have a garden out back that attracts them in the summer. Maybe after lunch you can help me figure out what plants to add this year?" Maya's eyes went wide. "Really? Can I, Dad? If Evelyn doesn't mind an expert consultant, I insist on it." Lunch was surprisingly relaxed, sandwiches and fruit and conversation that flowed easier than Caleb expected. Evelyn asked Maya about school, about her favorite subjects, about the soccer team. Maya, in turn, asked Evelyn about her work with the kind of directness only children possess. "Dad says you run a big company. What does that mean?" "It means I'm in charge of a lot of people who help keep information safe on computers." "Like passwords?" "Exactly like passwords. And other security things to make sure bad people can't steal important information." "That's cool. Are you good at it?" Evelyn smiled. "I try to be. Some people think I'm very good at it. Some people disagree." "Dad says people who disagree are usually just jealous." Caleb nearly choked on his water. "Maya, it's true. You said that about Tommy's dad when he said you weren't a real contractor because you don't have your own company." "I said that was his opinion, and opinions vary," Caleb corrected, though he was definitely blushing. Evelyn's expression was a mixture of amusement and something softer. "Your dad sounds very wise." After lunch, while Maya explored the garden with the intense focus of a 7-year-old on a mission, Caleb and Evelyn sat on the deck with the newly reinforced railing, drinking coffee, and watching her dart between flower beds. "She's wonderful," Evelyn said quietly. "You've done an incredible job with her." "Most days I feel like I'm barely keeping up." "That's what good parents feel. The bad ones think they've got it all figured out." She paused. "My parents were the second type. Very certain they knew exactly what I should be, what I should want, what success looked like. When I told them I was starting my own company instead of going to law school, they said I was throwing my life away." "They were wrong." "Were they?" Evelyn's voice was quiet. "I've built this successful company, made more money than they ever dreamed of, proved I could do it. But I'm 36 years old, sitting alone in a house that feels like a museum most days, fighting people who want to take the one thing I've poured everything into. No husband, no kids, no life outside of work. Maybe they were right about what I was sacrificing." Caleb turned to look at her fully. "Do you want those things? Husband, kids, different life?" I don't know. I never let myself think about it because there was always the next goal, the next milestone, the next battle to win. She watched Maya discover something exciting in the garden, probably a caterpillar. But watching you with her, seeing how you've built this whole life that matters beyond work, it makes me wonder what I've been missing while I was too busy succeeding. You're 36, not 90. You can still build whatever life you want. Can I? After Monday's vote, I might not even have my company. And if I do keep it, the battles won't stop. There will always be another Grant Mitchell, another threat, another fight. Evelyn's hands tightened around her coffee cup. This is what I signed up for. This is the cost of building something from nothing. Or, Caleb said carefully, maybe the cost is only that high because you've been paying it alone. The words hung between them, weighted with implications neither of them was quite ready to examine. Maya came running up to the deck, clutching something carefully in her cupped hands. Evelyn, look! It's a monarch caterpillar. On your milkweed, can we keep it and watch it turn into a butterfly? Evelyn's entire demeanor shifted, softening into something genuine and present. That's amazing, Maya, but caterpillars do better in their natural habitat. How about we take photos of it and visit it every time you come here to check on its progress? Every time I come here? Maya latched onto the phrase with laser focus. Are we coming back? Caleb met Evelyn's eyes over his daughter's head. The question was bigger than Maya realized. I hope so, Evelyn said. If that's okay with your dad. Dad says we always make time for good friends. Are you good friends now? The innocence of the question, the simple clarity of a child's worldview, it cut through all the complexity and corporate warfare and careful boundaries straight to the truth underneath. Yeah, Butterfly, Caleb said softly, still looking at Evelyn. I think we are. Maya beamed like this was the best news she'd heard all week. Good, because Evelyn has a really cool house and she knows about butterflies and she makes good sandwiches. Those are all important friend qualities. Can't argue with that logic, Evelyn said, and the smile on her face was so genuine, so unguarded, that Caleb felt something shift in his chest, something that felt dangerous and inevitable and right all at once. They spent the afternoon in the garden, Maya cataloging every plant and insect she could find, Evelyn answering questions with surprising patience, Caleb mostly watching the two of them and marveling at how natural this felt. How easily his daughter and this CEO, who was fighting for her empire, could exist in the same space, connected by milkweed and monarchs and the simple joy of discovery. As the sun started to sink toward evening, Caleb knew they should leave. Maya had school in the morning. He had an early job. Real life was waiting beyond this garden, beyond this unexpected afternoon that felt suspended outside of normal time. But before he could say anything, Evelyn's phone rang. She glanced at the screen, and her entire body tensed. It's Robert Chen, she said, voice carefully neutral. He's not supposed to call until after Monday's vote. You should answer it, Caleb said. Evelyn nodded, already moving toward the house for privacy. Maya, do you want to keep exploring while I take this call? Your dad can help you look for more caterpillars. Okay. Maya was already racing toward a different flower bed. Caleb watched Evelyn disappear inside, phone pressed to her ear, shoulders squared like she was preparing for battle. He wanted to follow her, to somehow make this easier, but he knew this was her fight. All he could do was wait. Maya found 3 more caterpillars and a beetle she insisted was probably rare, before Evelyn emerged from the house 15 minutes later. Her expression was unreadable, the CEO mask firmly in place. Everything okay? Caleb asked quietly, while Maya was occupied with photographing the beetle. Robert wanted to give me a heads up before Monday. Evelyn's voice was carefully controlled. He's voting in my favor. He said my presentation reminded him why he invested in the first place, and Grant's behavior at dinner raised serious concerns about his judgment. The relief that washed through Caleb was almost physical. That's incredible. You won. You have your 5 votes. I have 5 votes if nothing changes between now and Monday. Grant will make a final push this weekend. He'll call every board member, apply pressure, make promises, try to flip someone. But despite her cautious words, something in Evelyn's expression was lighter, hopeful. But yeah, it's looking good. It's looking better than good. You did this. We did this. Your advice about the presentation, about telling the real story instead of just the business case, that's what reached Robert. He told me he'd forgotten that hard analytics was supposed to be about more than profits. Evelyn's eyes were bright, almost disbelieving. I might actually keep my company. You're going to keep your company. And then you're going to keep building it into exactly what you envisioned. Maya chose that moment to run over, beetle photo successfully captured. Dad, can we come back next weekend to check on the caterpillars? Caleb looked at Evelyn, asking the question without words. I'd like that, Evelyn said. Maybe we could make it a regular thing? Saturday garden visits? I could use an expert consultant on monarch habitats. I charge very reasonable rates, Maya said seriously. 1 juice box per visit. That seems more than fair. They left as the sun painted the sky in shades of gold and amber, Maya chattering about caterpillars and metamorphosis, and how she couldn't wait to tell her class about Evelyn's garden. Caleb glanced in the rearview mirror as they pulled away and saw Evelyn standing in her doorway, watching them leave, looking like someone who'd just remembered what it felt like to not be alone. His phone buzzed at a red light. Thank you for today, for bringing Maya, for reminding me that life exists outside of boardrooms and battles, for being exactly what I needed without me having to ask. Sleep well, Caleb. He typed back one-handed. You too. And Evelyn? Monday's going to go exactly how it should. Trust that. I'm trying. Try harder. You've earned this. 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times before her final message came through. Having you in my corner makes that easier to believe. Good night. Caleb drove home with Maya's voice narrating butterfly facts in the background and something warm settling in his chest that felt suspiciously like the future rearranging itself into new possibilities. Monday morning dawned with the kind of pressure that made the air feel electric. Caleb went to work as usual, but his mind was elsewhere, in a boardroom across town where Evelyn Hart was fighting for everything she'd built. He checked his phone every chance he got, but there were no messages, no updates, just silence. The vote was scheduled for 10 o'clock. By noon, Caleb still hadn't heard anything. He was in the middle of framing a wall when his phone finally buzzed at 1:15. Just 2 words. I won. Then 30 seconds later. Grant's been removed from the board. Robert moved for a vote of no confidence based on the evidence I presented. It was unanimous. It's over. Caleb read the messages 3 times, a grin spreading across his face that made his coworker ask if he'd won the lottery. Something like that, Caleb said and texted back. Congratulations, you did it. Knew you would. Celebrating with my leadership team tonight. Dinner, champagne, the whole thing. But I wanted you to know first, you're the reason I had the courage to tell the real story instead of just the safe one. You're the reason you won. I just reminded you who you are. Still, thank you for everything. Caleb pocketed his phone, returned to his work, and spent the rest of the day with a lightness in his chest that had nothing to do with lumber and nails and everything to do with watching someone he cared about win the battle they'd been fighting alone for too long. That evening, after Maya was in bed, his phone rang. Evelyn's name on the screen. Hey, he answered. Shouldn't you be celebrating? I was. The dinner ended an hour ago. Her voice sounded different, lighter, almost giddy. Caleb, it's really over. Grant's gone. The board reaffirmed their support. My team is energized. Everything I was afraid of losing is safe. How does it feel? Surreal, terrifying, amazing. A pause. Lonely. The admission hung in the air between them, honest and vulnerable, and so unlike the controlled CEO he'd first met. You're surrounded by people who support you, Caleb said gently. I'm surrounded by employees and colleagues and board members. That's not the same thing as... She trailed off, seeming to search for words. I'm sitting in my house, my safe, secure, perfectly controlled house. And all I can think about is how much better today would have been if I could have shared it with someone who cares about me, and not just hard analytics. Caleb's heart rate picked up. Evelyn, I know this is complicated. I know we barely know each other. I know you have Maya to think about, and a life that doesn't include corporate drama, and a woman who works 80-hour weeks. The words came faster now, like she was afraid if she stopped, she'd lose her nerve. But these past 2 weeks, having you show up and fix things and just be there without wanting anything in return, it's made me realize how much of my life I've spent alone because I thought that was the cost of success. And I don't want to do that anymore. What are you saying? I'm saying I like who I am when you're around. I'm saying Maya is the most wonderful kid I've ever met, and watching you with her makes me believe in things I thought I'd given up on. I'm saying I won the battle for my company today, but the victory feels incomplete because the person I most wanted to tell doesn't even know if we're friends or something more, or just two people who met at the right time. Caleb sat down on his couch, phone pressed to his ear, heart pounding. We're friends, he said carefully. Good friends, the kind who show up for each other. Just friends? I don't know, maybe. Maybe something that could become more if we're careful and honest and we don't rush it because both of us have too much at stake to screw this up. The relief in her exhale was audible. Careful and honest. I can do that. Good. Because Maya's already planning next Saturday's garden visit, and I'm not going to disappoint her by saying we can't come. Evelyn laughed, truly laughed, and the sound was bright and free. Next Saturday, maybe Saturday after that, and maybe eventually we figure out what this is without overthinking it to death. That sounds perfect. They talked for another hour about everything and nothing, her board meeting, Maya's butterfly project, the small moments that made up life when you weren't fighting corporate wars. And when they finally said goodnight, Caleb realized something fundamental had shifted. The glass house on Riverside Drive wasn't a fortress anymore. It was becoming something else, something that felt like possibility. The next Saturday arrived with the promise of routine, something both Caleb and Evelyn were learning to navigate in their own ways. Maya had packed her backpack the night before, including a notebook she'd designated as her official butterfly research journal, complete with hand-drawn monarch illustrations on the cover. Do you think the caterpillars will be bigger? She asked for the third time that morning while Caleb made scrambled eggs. Probably. Caterpillars grow fast when they're eating constantly. Like Tommy Rodriguez at lunch. He ate 4 sandwiches last week. Caleb smiled despite himself. Exactly like that. They arrived at Riverside Drive at 11:30, early, but Maya's enthusiasm had made waiting impossible. Evelyn answered the door in jeans and a simple white shirt, her hair pulled back in a ponytail, looking more relaxed than Caleb had ever seen her. The corporate armor was completely absent, replaced by something softer and infinitely more real. The caterpillars have grown, she announced to Maya immediately. I've been checking on them every day. One of them started forming a chrysalis yesterday. Maya's shriek of excitement was probably audible 3 houses down. Can we see it? Right now, please? Absolutely. I even set up a better viewing spot so we don't disturb them. As Maya raced toward the garden with single-minded determination, Evelyn hung back with Caleb for a moment. Hi, she said, and there was something almost shy in the greeting. Hi yourself. You look good. Rested. I actually slept through the night for the first time in months. Turns out not having someone actively trying to destroy your life's work does wonders for insomnia. She smiled, and Caleb noticed the dark circles under her eyes had faded considerably. How was your week? Good. Busy. Maya's been talking about today non-stop. I think you've created a monster. She wants to become a professional butterfly researcher now. There are worse career aspirations. Evelyn glanced toward the garden where Maya was already crouched by the milkweed, peering intently at something. I like having her here, having both of you here. It makes the house feel less like a museum and more like a home. The admission was quiet, honest, and it settled into Caleb's chest with warmth. We like being here. They spent the morning in the garden, Maya documenting every stage of caterpillar development with the seriousness of a trained scientist. Evelyn pointing out different plants and their purposes, Caleb mostly watching the two of them interact with a contentment that felt dangerously close to belonging. The chrysalis that had formed overnight was jade green with gold spots, hanging from a leaf like a tiny piece of jewelry. It's so beautiful, Maya whispered, as if speaking too loudly might damage it. How long until the butterfly comes out? About 10 to 14 days, Evelyn said. We'll have to keep checking. Can we come back next weekend, and the weekend after, and every weekend until it hatches? Caleb started to interject to remind Maya that Evelyn had her own life, her own schedule. But Evelyn spoke first. I'd like that. We could make it our Saturday tradition. Garden visits and butterfly monitoring. Really? Maya's face lit up with pure joy. Dad, did you hear? We have a tradition now. I heard butterfly. That's pretty special. What started as a garden visit evolved naturally into lunch. Sandwiches on the deck, Lemonade that Evelyn had made from scratch. Conversation that flowed with the easy comfort of people who were learning each other's rhythms. Maya told elaborate stories about her classmates. Evelyn shared carefully edited versions of her work challenges, and Caleb found himself relaxing in a way he rarely did around new people. After lunch, while Maya was occupied with drawing the chrysalis in her research journal, Evelyn touched Caleb's arm gently. "Can I show you something? Inside?" They left Maya under the shade of the deck umbrella, visible through the windows, and Evelyn led him to a room he hadn't seen before. A study lined with bookshelves, dominated by a large desk with multiple monitors. But what caught his attention was the wall opposite the desk, currently bare except for a few nail holes. "I took down all my awards and achievement plaques," Evelyn said, gesturing at the empty wall. "They've been there for years. Constant reminders of what I'd built, what I'd accomplished, what I had to protect. But this week, after the vote, I realized I didn't want to stare at achievements anymore. I wanted to remember why they mattered in the first place." "What are you putting up instead?" "I don't know yet. I thought maybe photos, moments instead of milestones, things that remind me there's life outside of conquest." She turned to face him. "I've been thinking about what you said, about paying the cost alone, about how maybe it doesn't have to be that expensive if you let people in. And I want to try that, actually try it, not just acknowledge it intellectually." Caleb studied her face, seeing the vulnerability beneath the words. "That's scary." "Terrifying. I've spent 12 years building walls to protect what I was creating. Letting people behind them feels like dismantling my own defenses. Or," Caleb said carefully, "it feels like trusting that you're strong enough to be safe without the walls." Evelyn's laugh was soft, almost disbelieving. "How do you do that? Say exactly the thing I need to hear without making it feel like platitudes?" "Practice. Single parenting teaches you that honest communication beats pretty words every time." She moved closer, close enough that Caleb could smell her perfume, something subtle and expensive that somehow suited her perfectly. "I want to do this right, Caleb. Whatever this is becoming between us, but I need you to understand what you're walking into." "I'm listening." "My life is complicated. Hard analytics is stable now, but that doesn't mean the work gets easier. I have 400 employees depending on me, board meetings and investor calls and strategic decisions that affect hundreds of families. There will be late nights and emergency situations and times when I'm completely consumed by crises you can't help me solve." Her eyes searched his face. "And I have no idea how to balance that with being present for someone I care about. I've never successfully done it before." "You've never tried with someone who understands that work matters," Caleb said. "I get it, Evelyn. I work construction. There are emergency calls and weather delays and projects that run long. There are nights when Maya needs me, and I have to choose between being there for her and meeting a deadline. Life is messy and complicated, and nobody gets it perfect. But you do get it perfect with Maya. You show up for her every single time." "I show up." "That's different from perfect. There are days I burn dinner and forget to sign permission slips and let her watch too much TV because I'm exhausted. But I keep showing up and trying, and that's what matters." He reached out, gently taking her hand. "That's all anyone can ask for. Showing up. Being honest. Trying." Evelyn looked down at their joined hands like she was seeing something fragile and precious. "What if I'm terrible at this? At relationships and letting people in and being vulnerable?" "Then you'll be terrible at it while learning to be better, same as everyone else. You make it sound simple. It is simple. Not easy, but simple. We care about each other. We want to see where this goes. We communicate honestly and make space for each other's lives, and we don't run away when it gets hard." Caleb squeezed her hand gently. "And we don't put pressure on it to be perfect or figure everything out immediately. We just see what happens." The tension in Evelyn's shoulders eased slightly. "Okay, we can do that." "Yeah, we can." She stepped closer, and for a moment Caleb thought she might kiss him. But instead she rested her forehead against his shoulder, a gesture of trust and exhaustion and relief all at once. He wrapped his arms around her, feeling her breathe, feeling the slight tremor that suggested she was holding on to control by sheer force of will. "Thank you," she whispered against his shirt, "for being patient with me while I figure out how to do this. Take all the time you need." They stood like that for a long moment, just breathing together in the quiet of her study, while outside Maya narrated her butterfly observations to an audience of flowers. It wasn't dramatic or passionate or movie perfect. It was real and steady and exactly what both of them needed. A crash from the deck shattered the moment. Not dangerous, just the sound of Maya's lemonade glass hitting the ground. They broke apart immediately, Evelyn wiping her eyes quickly, Caleb's hand lingering on her arm for just a second longer than necessary. "I should check on her," he said. "We should check on her," Evelyn corrected, and the inclusion of herself in that "we" felt significant. Maya was fine. The glass hadn't broken, just spilled, and she was already trying to clean it up with napkins in that earnest way 7-year-olds approach disasters they've caused. "I'm sorry, Evelyn. I was reaching for my journal and I knocked it over and—" "It's okay, sweetie. Accidents happen. Let's get some paper towels." They cleaned up together, the three of them working in synchronized efficiency, and Caleb realized this was what family looked like. Not the perfect Instagram version, but the real thing, minor disasters handled with patience, messes cleaned together, nobody making a big deal out of small mistakes. The afternoon drifted into early evening without any of them noticing. Maya taught Evelyn a complicated hand-clapping game she'd learned at recess. Evelyn showed Maya how to press flowers between book pages to preserve them. Caleb fixed a loose stone on the patio that he'd noticed was wobbling. Simple, normal activities that felt extraordinary because of who they were sharing them with. At 6 o'clock, Caleb reluctantly announced they should head home. Maya had school tomorrow, and he had an early job site meeting. "Can we come back next Saturday?" Maya asked immediately. Evelyn looked at Caleb, asking permission with her eyes. He nodded. "Absolutely. Same time?" "Same time," Caleb confirmed. As they walked to the truck, Maya skipped ahead, humming to herself, still clutching her butterfly journal. Evelyn walked with Caleb, their hands brushing but not quite holding. "This was a good day," she said quietly. "Yeah, it was. Same time next week? Wouldn't miss it." She smiled, and in the golden evening light, she looked younger somehow, lighter, like someone learning to carry less weight on her shoulders. "Caleb," she said as he opened the truck door, "I'm really glad your mail got delivered to the wrong address." He laughed. "Me too. Best mistake the Postal Service ever made." The following week settled into a rhythm that felt sustainable. Work during the week, Saturday garden visits, occasional texts throughout the days when something made one of them think of the other. Nothing dramatic, nothing rushed, just two people learning to fit into each other's lives without forcing it. On Thursday evening, Caleb's phone rang while he was helping Maya with math homework. Evelyn's name on the screen. "Hey, is this a bad time?" "Never a bad time. What's up?" "I have a situation." Her voice was tight, controlled in that way that meant she was managing something difficult. "One of our major clients just had a security breach. Not our fault, but they're panicking and want me in Seattle tomorrow for an emergency meeting. I'll be gone through Sunday." "Okay." Caleb waited, sensing there was more. "Which means I'll miss Saturday. Our tradition. And I know Maya's been looking forward to checking on the chrysalis and—" She stopped herself. "I hate canceling. I hate disappointing her. But I don't have a choice." "Evelyn, she'll understand. She's 7, not entitled. We can visit next Saturday instead." "I know, but I wanted to call you myself, not just send a text, because this is going to happen sometimes. Work emergencies that pull me away, situations I can't control." The vulnerability in her voice was unmistakable. "I need to know you understand that you won't think I'm choosing work over you and Maya." Caleb's heart clenched at the fear beneath her words. "I understand that your job sometimes requires your immediate attention. I understand that 400 people depend on you making good decisions. And I understand that handling emergencies professionally doesn't mean you care less about us." "You really mean that?" "I really mean that. Go to Seattle, handle your crisis. We'll be here when you get back." Her exhale was shaky with relief. "Thank you. I'll make it up to Maya. Maybe we can do something special when I'm back? A longer visit or a trip somewhere she'd enjoy?" "You don't have to make anything up. Just be honest with her about why you can't be there. Kids respect honesty more than compensation." "Okay. Can I tell her myself? I don't want her to think I'm just disappearing." "Hold on." Caleb called Maya over, put the phone on speaker. "Maya, Evelyn wants to talk to you." "Hi, Evelyn." Maya's enthusiasm was infectious. Hi, Maya. I have to tell you something, and I'm really sorry about it. I have to go to Seattle tomorrow for work, and I won't be back until Sunday night, which means I'm going to miss our Saturday visit. Maya's face fell. Oh, but what about the chrysalis? What if it hatches and we miss it? I know, I'm disappointed too, but I promise when I get back we'll check on it together. And maybe we can plan something extra special for the following weekend? Like what? I don't know yet. What would you like to do? Maya thought seriously. Could we maybe go to the Butterfly Conservatory? It's in the city and they have hundreds of butterflies and you can walk through gardens and they land on you sometimes? Evelyn's voice softened. That sounds perfect. Let's plan on that. The Saturday after I get back, we'll spend the whole day there. Deal? Deal! Maya was beaming again. Have a good trip, Evelyn. I hope you fix whatever's broken. Thank you, sweetheart. I'll try my best. After Maya returned to her homework, Caleb took the phone off speaker. That was really good of you, calling her directly. I meant what I said about doing this right. That includes respecting that Maya's feelings matter. Evelyn paused. How are you so good at this? The single parenting, the emotional intelligence, the knowing exactly what people need? Trial and error, mostly error, and therapy after the divorce. You went to therapy? For about a year? Needed help processing the abandonment, the self-doubt, the fear that I was screwing up my daughter's life by not being enough. Caleb said it matter-of-factly, without shame. Best decision I ever made. Taught me that asking for help isn't weakness. The silence on the other end was thoughtful. I've never been to therapy. Always thought I should be able to figure things out myself. That needing help was a failure. Or maybe it's the smartest thing successful people do, recognize when they need expertise beyond their own. Are you suggesting I need therapy? I'm suggesting that everyone needs someone objective to talk to sometimes, especially people carrying the weight you carry. He softened his voice. But that's just a thought, not pressure. I'll think about it. Another pause. I have to go. Team meeting in 5. But Caleb, thank you for understanding about Seattle. Anytime. Travel safe. I will. And Caleb, I'll miss you. Both of you. We'll miss you too. The line went quiet, and Caleb realized they'd just navigated their first real test. Work interfering with plans, honest communication, managing disappointment without blame. And they'd done it well. That felt significant. Friday came and went without incident. Saturday morning, Caleb woke to a text from Evelyn, time-stamped at 5:47 a.m. Seattle time. Client meeting went better than expected. Damage contained, contract secured, crisis averted. Exhausted, but relieved. Hope you and Maya have a good day. I'll be thinking about that chrysalis. He texted back. Glad it went well. Get some rest. We're thinking about you too. Throughout the day, sporadic messages came through. A photo of Seattle's skyline with the caption, Beautiful city, wish I was seeing it under better circumstances. A complaint about airport coffee, a relieved update that her flight was on time. Small connections across distance that somehow made the distance feel less absolute. Sunday evening, Caleb was making dinner when his phone rang. Evelyn, calling from what sounded like a car. I'm back, just landed and got home. Can I come by? I know it's last minute and you probably have routine and we'd love to see you. Fair warning though, we're having spaghetti and Maya will absolutely make you tell her everything about your trip. Spaghetti sounds perfect. I'll be there in 20 minutes. She arrived in 22 minutes, still in travel clothes, slacks and a blouse that had definitely seen better days, her hair escaping its ponytail, carrying a bag from a bookstore, and looking exhausted but genuinely happy to be there. Maya tackled her in a hug that nearly knocked her over. Evelyn, you're back. Did you save the company? Did you fly on a big plane? Did you eat airplane food? Yes, and it was terrible. Evelyn laughed, hugging her back. I missed you. I missed you too. Dad made spaghetti and there's garlic bread and we can tell you about everything we did yesterday. Dinner was chaotic in the best way. Maya dominating the conversation with elaborate stories about her weekend, Evelyn listening with genuine interest despite obvious exhaustion, Caleb watching both of them and feeling that dangerous warmth in his chest that whispered this could be his life if he let it. After dinner, while Maya was in the bath, Evelyn and Caleb cleaned up together in the small kitchen of his one-bedroom apartment. The contrast to her glass house was stark, but she moved through the space like it was familiar, like she belonged there. "Thank you for letting me crash your Sunday night," she said, drying dishes while he washed. "I could have waited until next Saturday, but I really wanted to see you both. You're always welcome here. Maya loves having you around. So do I." Evelyn set down this dish towel, turning to face him. "Can I be honest about something?" "Always. I've dated before. Relationships or attempts at them. They always ended the same way, with me choosing work and them resenting that choice. I'd cancel plans for emergencies, work late instead of attending events, prioritize the company over the relationship." Her eyes were serious, searching his face. "But this weekend, flying back early from Seattle, even though I could have stayed for Monday meetings, rushing here instead of going home to decompress, this is the first time I've wanted to choose a person over work, and it scares me how much I wanted it." Caleb dried his hands slowly, giving himself time to process. "What scares you about it?" "That I'll mess it up, that I'll hurt you or Maya by eventually falling back into old patterns, that wanting something doesn't mean I'm capable of sustaining it." She wrapped her arms around herself. "I watched my parents' marriage fall apart because my father chose his career over everything else. I swore I'd never do that to someone. But what if it's genetic? What if I'm fundamentally incapable of putting people first?" "You just flew back early from a business trip to have spaghetti with a 7-year-old. You called Maya personally to explain why you'd miss Saturday. You're standing in my kitchen being vulnerable about your fears instead of pretending everything's fine." Caleb stepped closer. "Those aren't the actions of someone incapable of putting people first. But what happens when the novelty wears off? When it's not exciting anymore and work feels more important? Then you make a choice. Same as everyone in every relationship ever. You decide what matters, and you act accordingly." He reached out, gently taking her hand. "But here's the thing, Evelyn. I'm not asking you to choose between me and your company. I'm asking you to include me in your life alongside it. There's a difference." Her eyes glistened slightly. "What if I'm not good at inclusion? What if I only know how to do things all or nothing? Then we'll figure it out together, with honest communication and patience, and probably some arguments and definitely some compromises." He smiled gently. "Relationships aren't binary, Evelyn. They're not success or failure. They're continuous negotiations between people who care about each other and want to make it work." "You've really thought about this." "I've had 3 years of single parenting to think about what I want in a partner. And what I want is someone honest, strong, ambitious, kind, and willing to try even when it's hard. Someone who shows up for the people they care about in whatever way they can." He met her eyes steadily. "You check all those boxes. Even when I'm terrified of messing it up?" "Especially then. Fear means you care enough for it to matter." Evelyn laughed, wiping her eyes. "How are you so wise for a construction worker who makes dinosaur-shaped pancakes?" "The dinosaur pancakes are where the real wisdom comes from. You'd be surprised how much life philosophy you can extract from breakfast food." She laughed harder, and the sound filled his small kitchen with light. Then, before Caleb could process what was happening, Evelyn stepped forward and kissed him. It wasn't hesitant or tentative. It was sure and warm and tasted like garlic bread and promises. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. "I want this. Whatever this is. I want to try." "So do I. Even knowing I'll probably work too much and cancel plans sometimes and struggle with work-life balance? Even knowing that, as long as you're honest about it and we figure it out together." "I can do honest." "Then we're good." Maya's voice called from the bathroom. "Dad, I'm ready for my bedtime story." Evelyn stepped back, smiling. "You should go. I should probably head home anyway. Early meeting tomorrow." "Stay for the story. Maya would love it. Then I'll walk you out." They read together, Caleb on one side of Maya's bed, Evelyn on the other, taking turns with voices for different characters in a book about a girl who befriended a dragon. Maya's eyes got progressively heavier until she was asleep before the final page, her hand curled around her stuffed rabbit. In the hallway outside Maya's room, Evelyn whispered, "Thank you for tonight, for the spaghetti and the honesty and the reminder that life exists outside of corporate crises. Thank you for flying back early, for being here, for trying." She kissed him again, softer this time, lingering. "Next Saturday? The Butterfly Conservatory? Wouldn't miss it." "Good." She headed for the door, then paused. Caleb, I think I'm falling for you. I wanted you to know that. The words hung in the small entryway of his apartment, honest and terrifying and perfect. I think I'm falling for you too, he said, and watched her smile break across her face like sunrise. She left, and Caleb stood in his quiet apartment feeling like the world had rearranged itself into something new. Something that felt like hope and possibility and the beginning of everything he'd been too afraid to want. His phone buzzed 5 minutes later. Made it home. Still smiling. Sleep well, Caleb. He typed back, You too. See you Saturday. Then he added, I'm glad we're doing this. Her response was immediate. Me too, more than you know. Caleb fell asleep that night with his phone on his nightstand and certainty in his chest that whatever came next, they'd face it together. And that was more than enough. The week that followed felt different, charged with the kind of energy that comes from knowing something significant has shifted. Caleb found himself smiling at random moments during work, catching himself thinking about Evelyn's laugh or the way she'd looked at Maya during the bedtime story. His coworkers noticed, offering knowing grins and questions he deflected with practiced ease. Maya noticed too, with the uncanny perception children possess. On Wednesday evening, while they were making tacos for dinner, she looked up from shredding cheese and said, Dad, do you like Evelyn? Like her? Caleb paused mid-chop on the tomatoes. What makes you ask that? You smile different when you talk to her, and you check your phone more. And last Sunday when she left, you stood by the door for like 5 whole minutes just looking happy. Maya's expression was serious, thoughtful. It's okay if you do. I like her too. She's nice and she knows about butterflies and she doesn't talk to me like I'm a baby. The directness of it, the simple acceptance, hit Caleb square in the chest. Yeah, butterfly, I like her. Is that okay with you? Does that mean she might be around more? Like a lot more? Maybe. If things keep going well, but nothing changes between you and me. You're still my number one, always. Maya considered this while carefully distributing cheese into perfectly even piles. Can I tell you something without you getting weird about it? Always. I kind of hope she stays around. It's nice having her at our apartment. And her house is cool and the garden is awesome and she makes you less sad when you think I'm not looking. Caleb set down the knife, moving to crouch beside his daughter. I didn't know you noticed that, the sad parts. I notice everything, Dad. You taught me to pay attention. Maya's eyes, so much older than 7 years should allow, met his steadily. You're always happy with me, but sometimes when I'm asleep or at school, I think you're lonely. And you've been less lonely since Evelyn. The truth of it was undeniable. You're right. I have been less lonely. She makes me feel like there's room in my life for more than just work and being your dad. Like I can be other things too. That's good. You should be other things. Like happy and silly and someone who goes on dates and stuff. Maya went back to her cheese distribution. Just don't forget about our Saturday pancake tradition when you're being those other things. Never. Pancakes are sacred. Good. Because if you marry Evelyn someday, I want her to know about the pancake rules. Caleb nearly choked on air. Whoa, slow down there. We're not talking about marriage. We're barely talking about dating. But you could be someday. If she keeps coming around and you keep smiling like that, and we keep having good Saturdays. Maya said it with the casual certainty of someone stating obvious facts. I'm just saying I wouldn't be mad about it, in case you were worried. I appreciate that, Butterfly. But let's maybe see how the next few months go before we start planning weddings, okay? Okay, but I'm just saying. Noted. They finished making dinner in comfortable silence, but Caleb's mind was racing. He hadn't let himself think that far ahead, hadn't let himself imagine a future where Evelyn was more than someone he was carefully, cautiously getting to know. But Maya had said it out loud, made it real and possible and terrifying in the way all good things were terrifying. That night after Maya was asleep, he texted Evelyn. Fair warning, Maya just gave us her blessing to keep seeing each other. She may have also mentioned something about weddings. I told her to slow down, but apparently she's already invested in this outcome. Evelyn's response came quickly. That's adorable and also mildly terrifying. Should I be worried that a 7-year-old has more relationship confidence than I do? She's had fewer bad experiences to make her cautious. We should probably learn from that. Cautious optimism? Exactly. Speaking of which, still good for Saturday? Maya's been counting down the days to the Butterfly Conservatory? Absolutely. I'm actually looking forward to it more than I've looked forward to anything work-related in months. Is that bad? That's healthy. You're allowed to be excited about life outside the office. Still feels weird, but good weird. I'll pick you both up at 9. The conservatory opens at 10, and I thought we could get breakfast first. Perfect. Maya will lose her mind with excitement. Good. I like making her happy. I like making you happy too. Caleb smiled at his phone like a teenager. You're very good at it. I'm trying. This whole being in a relationship thing is new territory for me, or at least doing it right is new territory. You're doing great, better than great. You have to say that. You like me. I do like you. That's why I'm qualified to say you're doing great. There was a pause before her next message. I'm scared I'm going to mess this up, Caleb. That I'll get too comfortable and slip back into workaholic patterns and hurt you both without meaning to. Then we'll talk about it when it happens. We'll be honest. We'll adjust. That's what people who care about each other do. You make it sound so simple. Because it is. We're making it complicated by overthinking it. You're probably right. Okay. Deep breath. Saturday. Breakfast and butterflies and not overthinking. Now you've got it. Sleep well, Evelyn. You too. And Caleb, thank you for being patient with me. Always. Saturday morning arrived with Maya awake at 6:30, already dressed in her favorite butterfly t-shirt and jeans, her research journal packed along with what she deemed essential supplies for a day trip, 3 juice boxes, 2 granola bars, her camera, and a stuffed butterfly she'd had since she was 3. She's not picking us up for 2.5 hours, Caleb pointed out while making coffee. I know, but I want to be ready. What if there's traffic? What if we need extra time? What if you eat some breakfast and calm down before you vibrate through the floor? Maya giggled, but dutifully sat down to the cereal Caleb poured. Are you excited too? Very excited. You're just better at hiding it. Adults are weird like that. We're very weird. It's part of our charm. At exactly 9 o'clock, Evelyn's car pulled up outside their apartment building. Not the sleek sedan from before, but an SUV that looked more practical, more family-friendly. Caleb noticed and filed it away as significant. She'd thought about what would be comfortable for Maya, had planned accordingly. She stepped out wearing jeans, a light sweater, and sneakers, her hair loose and casual. No business armor, no corporate polish, just Evelyn, looking happy and nervous and real. Good morning, she said as they approached. Everyone ready for butterflies? So ready, Maya announced, already climbing into the back seat with her backpack of supplies. Breakfast was at a diner Evelyn had researched specifically for its kid-friendly menu and famous pancakes. Maya ordered chocolate chip pancakes with whipped cream, Caleb got an omelet, and Evelyn surprised them both by ordering the same chocolate chip pancakes Maya had chosen. What? I like pancakes. I've just never had an excuse to order them for breakfast. She grinned at Maya's delighted expression. Plus, someone told me pancakes are sacred, and I take sacred things seriously. Dad told you about our pancake tradition? He did, and I respect all food-based traditions. They ate and talked and laughed, and somewhere between the syrup-covered pancakes and Maya's elaborate explanation of butterfly migration patterns, Caleb realized this felt like family. Not the family he'd lost when his marriage ended, but something new being built from honest connection and shared joy. The Butterfly Conservatory was everything Maya had dreamed, a massive glass structure filled with tropical plants, waterfalls, and thousands of butterflies from dozens of species. They fluttered everywhere, landing on leaves and flowers, and occasionally on visitors who stood still enough. Maya was in heaven, her journal out immediately, documenting every species she could identify. Evelyn walked beside her, asking questions that showed she'd actually been paying attention to all of Maya's butterfly facts over the past weeks. Caleb trailed slightly behind, taking photos on his phone and watching the two of them bond over chrysalises and wing patterns and the miracle of metamorphosis. At one point, a huge blue morpho butterfly landed on Evelyn's shoulder. She froze, eyes wide, looking at Caleb with wonder and slight panic. "Don't move," Maya whispered urgently. "That's a blue morpho. They're from Central and South America. Their wings are iridescent because of microscopic scales." "It's beautiful," Evelyn said quietly, barely moving her lips. Also slightly terrifying. What if I accidentally hurt it? You won't. Just breathe normally. It'll fly away when it's ready. They stood there for nearly 2 minutes. Evelyn perfectly still, the butterfly opening and closing its wings slowly, Maya documenting everything with her camera, other visitors stopping to watch and smile. When the butterfly finally took flight, Evelyn let out a breath she'd been holding and laughed with pure delight. That was incredible. I've never had a butterfly land on me before. It means you're calm, Maya said seriously. Butterflies can sense anxiety and they avoid it. You must have good energy. Or I was just standing in the right spot. No, it's definitely the good energy thing. Dad says you have to earn butterfly trust. Evelyn looked at Caleb with raised eyebrows. Did you actually say that? I may have said something similar when we were talking about Maya's garden observations. She's extrapolated considerably. I like her extrapolations. Evelyn smiled down at Maya. Thank you for sharing this with me. I haven't had this much fun in years. We should come back, maybe for my birthday? It's in 3 months, and Dad said I could choose what we do, and I think butterflies would be perfect. Caleb started to redirect, to remind Maya that Evelyn might have other commitments, that 3 months was a long time, that they shouldn't assume, but Evelyn spoke first. I'd be honored to spend your birthday here if your dad says it's okay, of course. Dad? Maya looked at him with hope radiating from every pore. If Evelyn's sure she wants to spend her day watching you chase butterflies, then yes. I'm very sure it's a date. Well, not a date, but you know what I mean. Evelyn stumbled slightly over the words, and Caleb found it endearing that this woman who commanded boardrooms got flustered over birthday plans with a 7-year-old. They spent 3 hours at the conservatory, wandering through different climate zones, learning about butterfly life cycles, watching a chrysalis emergence demonstration that made Maya gasp with awe. Caleb watched Evelyn engage completely with the experience, asking questions, reading informational plaques, genuinely interested in everything Maya wanted to show her. On the drive home, Maya fell asleep in the back seat within 10 minutes, exhausted from excitement and overstimulation. Evelyn glanced in the rearview mirror and smiled. She's out cold. It's the butterfly coma. Happens every time we do something this exciting. They drove in comfortable silence for a few minutes before Evelyn said quietly, "Thank you for letting me be part of this. Of her life. Of your life. Thank you for wanting to be part of it. I do want that, more than I expected to want it." She kept her eyes on the road, but her voice was soft with vulnerability. "I've been thinking about what you said, about making room for people alongside work instead of choosing one or the other. I want to try that, really try." "What would that look like for you?" "I don't know yet. Maybe blocking off weekends for non-work activities unless it's truly an emergency. Maybe having dinner with you and Maya regularly instead of eating over spreadsheets. Maybe letting my assistant handle some of the late-night calls I've been taking myself." She paused at a red light, finally looking at him. "Maybe building a life that includes someone who challenges me to be more than just my company's CEO." That sounds like a good start. Is it too fast? Making plans for birthdays and talking about regular dinners when we've only been doing this for a few weeks? Caleb considered the question seriously. "I think people spend too much time worrying about timelines and not enough time paying attention to whether something feels right. This feels right to me. Does it feel right to you?" "Yes. Terrifyingly right, which is why I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. What if there is no other shoe? What if this just works because we're both honest and intentional and we care about each other?" Evelyn's laugh was soft, almost disbelieving. "You have entirely too much faith in good things happening. Someone has to balance out your catastrophic thinking." "Fair point." They pulled up outside Caleb's apartment building, and he gently woke Maya, who was disoriented and sleepy and slightly cranky in the way overtired children get. Evelyn helped gather Maya's backpack and supplies, while Caleb lifted his daughter into his arms, even though she was getting too big to carry easily. "Do you want to come up?" Caleb asked. "We're probably going to have a quiet afternoon, but you're welcome to stay." Evelyn hesitated, and Caleb could see her mentally calculating work she probably had waiting, things she should be doing, the safe choice of going home and maintaining some separation. Then she smiled. "I'd like that, if you don't mind me witnessing your quiet Saturday afternoon routine. It mostly involves cartoons and leftover pizza, very glamorous." "Sounds perfect." The afternoon unfolded exactly as Caleb had described. Maya recovering on the couch with cartoons, Caleb reheating pizza, Evelyn sitting cross-legged on his worn sofa, looking more relaxed than he'd ever seen her. At some point, Maya migrated from her own spot to curl up against Evelyn's side, and Evelyn's arm wrapped around her automatically, naturally, like it was the most normal thing in the world. Caleb took a photo with his phone, Maya half asleep against Evelyn, both of them bathed in afternoon sunlight, looking like they belonged together. "Did you just take a picture?" Evelyn asked without opening her eyes. "Maybe." "Can I see it?" He showed her the screen and something shifted in her expression. Softness, wonder, fear, hope, all tangled together. "Can you send that to me?" she whispered. "Already done." That evening, after Maya had fully revived and they'd had an early dinner of grilled cheese and tomato soup, Evelyn reluctantly said she should head home. "I have some work to review before Monday, and I promised myself I'd start maintaining better boundaries, which means not staying until midnight on your couch, even though I really want to." "That's very responsible of you. I'm trying this new thing called work-life balance. It's terrifying, but apparently healthy." She stood, gathering her purse and jacket. "Maya, thank you for sharing the Butterfly Conservatory with me. It was the best Saturday I've had in years." Maya hugged her tightly. "Thank you for coming, and for promising to come to my birthday, and for letting that butterfly land on you." "All my pleasure. Sweet dreams, butterfly expert." Caleb walked Evelyn to the door, stepping into the hallway with her for a moment of relative privacy. "I meant what I said earlier," she told him, "about wanting to be part of this, part of your lives. I know I'm still figuring out how to balance everything, but I want you to know I'm committed to trying." "I know you are. And we're not going anywhere." She kissed him then, slow and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, she rested her hand against his chest. "I'm falling harder for you every day. Both of you. It's exhilarating and terrifying, and I have no idea what I'm doing, but I don't want to stop." "Then don't stop. Just keep showing up. Keep being honest. Keep trying. That's all we need." "I can do that." "Good." She kissed him once more, then headed down the hallway toward the stairs. At the landing, she turned back. "Caleb, I think this might be the real thing, the kind of thing people build lives around." His heart expanded with warmth and certainty. "I think you might be right." The week that followed tested Evelyn's commitment to balance in ways she hadn't anticipated. A major contract negotiation went sideways on Tuesday, requiring late nights and emergency strategy sessions. Wednesday brought a potential security breach at a client site that demanded immediate attention. Thursday, a key employee gave notice, citing burnout, and Evelyn spent hours trying to address systemic problems she'd been ignoring. Through it all, she texted Caleb, sometimes just quick updates, sometimes longer messages processing the stress. He didn't offer solutions or try to fix things. He just listened, reminded her to eat actual meals, sent her photos of Maya doing homework or building elaborate structures with blocks. On Friday evening, Caleb's phone rang at 8 o'clock. Evelyn's voice was ragged with exhaustion. "I need to cancel tomorrow. I'm drowning in work and I can't do the garden visit and be present, and I'm so sorry, but I have to." "Oh, hey, breathe, it's okay." "It's not okay. I promised Maya we'd check on the chrysalis, and I'm breaking that promise because work is consuming everything, and this is exactly what I was afraid of." "Evelyn, stop. Listen to me." Caleb kept his voice calm, steady. "You're not breaking anything. You're handling a crisis at work, and that's legitimate and necessary. Maya will understand." "But I wanted to be better than this. I wanted to prove I could balance." "You are balancing. Balance doesn't mean never choosing work. It means being honest about when work needs to take priority and making it up when you can." He paused. "Have you slept? Eaten anything besides coffee?" The silence told him everything. "Okay, here's what's going to happen. You're going to order actual food, something with protein and vegetables. You're going to eat it. Then you're going to work for 2 more hours maximum, and then you're going to sleep. Tomorrow, you're going to handle whatever needs handling without feeling guilty about missing our visit. And Sunday, if you're free, you can come over and we'll have a quiet evening, and you can tell Maya yourself why you couldn't make it." "You're not mad?" "Why would I be mad? You have a demanding job that sometimes demands everything. I knew that when we started this. What I need is for you to take care of yourself while you're handling it. Her breath hitched slightly. How are you so understanding about this? Because I care about you, and because watching you burn out trying to be perfect for everyone doesn't help anyone. I don't deserve you. You deserve someone who understands that life is messy and complicated, and we do our best with what we've got. Now go order food. I'll talk to Maya. Caleb? Yeah? Thank you for not making this harder than it already is. Always. Now go eat. Maya took the news better than Evelyn had feared, with the resilient understanding kids often show when adults are honest with them. Is she okay? Maya asked, concerned. She's handling some big problems at work. She wanted to be here, but she can't right now. Can we go check on the chrysalis without her, and then tell her if anything happened? That's a great idea, Butterfly. We'll take pictures and send them to her. Saturday morning, they visited Evelyn's house, Caleb using the key she'd given him weeks ago, and found the chrysalis unchanged but healthy. Maya documented everything thoroughly, taking photos from multiple angles, adding observations to her journal. They sent the photos to Evelyn with a message. Chrysalis status still metamorphosing. We'll check again next week. Hope work is going better. Maya says to tell you that butterflies can't rush transformation, and neither can you. Evelyn's response came an hour later. That might be the wisest thing anyone said to me all week. Thank you for checking. Thank you for understanding. I'll see you tomorrow if I survive today. You'll survive. You're tougher than any business crisis. Debatable, but I appreciate the confidence. Sunday evening, Evelyn showed up at Caleb's apartment looking like she'd aged 5 years in a week. Dark circles under her eyes, shoulders tight with stress, but she'd changed out of business clothes into jeans and a sweater, making an effort to leave work behind. Maya hugged her immediately. Are you okay? Dad said work was really hard. It was really hard, but it's better now. The crisis is managed and I can breathe again. Evelyn knelt down to Maya's level. I'm sorry I missed our Saturday visit. I wanted to be there. It's okay. Dad says sometimes work needs you more, and that's not bad. It's just true. We took pictures of the chrysalis for you. Maya pulled out her journal, showing Evelyn the detailed observations. See? We documented everything so you wouldn't miss it. Evelyn's eyes glistened slightly. This is perfect. Thank you for including me even when I couldn't be there. That's what friends do, right, Dad? Right, Butterfly. They ordered Chinese food and ate at Caleb's small kitchen table, and Evelyn slowly decompressed, the tension leaving her shoulders as she listened to Maya talk about her school week and Caleb's stories about a problematic job site. She didn't talk about work unless asked, and when she did, she kept it brief, clearly making an effort to be present rather than mentally sorting through problems. After Maya went to bed, Caleb and Evelyn sat on the couch with tea. Her choice, she said, because she needed something calming after a week of surviving on coffee and adrenaline. I almost canceled tonight too, she admitted quietly. I have reports to review and emails to answer, and part of me felt guilty taking even this evening off. But you came anyway. But I came anyway, because I realized something this week while I was drowning in crises and emergency meetings. She turned to face him fully. The work will never end. There will always be another problem, another fire to put out, another reason to stay late and work weekends. I've spent 12 years telling myself that once I reached the next milestone, I'd ease up, but the milestones just keep moving. So what changed? You changed. This changed. I'd look at my phone during meetings and see photos of Maya building block towers, or texts from you asking if I'd eaten lunch. And I'd realize that you were building something while I was just maintaining something. And what you're building matters more. Caleb's chest tightened with emotion. Your work matters too, Evelyn. The company you built, the people you employ, the security you provide, that all matters. It does, but it doesn't matter more than this. More than having someone to come home to who actually cares if I survive my day. More than watching a little girl document butterflies with scientific precision. More than knowing there are people who see me as more than just a CEO. She took his hand. I don't want to be the person who chooses work over life anymore. I want to be the person who makes room for both. That's a hard balance to find. So help me find it. Call me out when I'm slipping into old patterns. Remind me that it's okay to leave work at the office sometimes. Be patient while I figure out how to do this differently. Her eyes searched his face. Can you do that? I can do that. As long as you promise to be honest when you're struggling. As long as you don't expect perfection from yourself. I'm so bad at not expecting perfection. I know, but you're getting better. You came here tonight instead of working. That's progress. Evelyn leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder. What did I do to deserve someone this patient? You fixed your own locks at midnight and let a stranger into your life because you recognized you needed help. You showed up for a 7-year-old's butterfly obsession even when you were fighting for your company. You keep choosing to try even when it's hard. He kissed the top of her head. You deserve good things, Evelyn. You just have to let yourself have them. They sat like that for a long time, just breathing together in the quiet of his apartment. And when Evelyn finally left at 10 o'clock, she looked lighter than she had in days. More herself. More whole. At the door, she kissed him goodnight and said, "Next Saturday, the garden. No work emergencies unless something is literally on fire. And even then, you should probably let the fire department handle it." She laughed. Fair point. Okay, no work. Just butterflies and you and Maya and learning to be present. Now you've got it. Caleb, I love this, what we're building. I love it more than I've loved anything in years. His heart skipped. I love it too. I love... He paused, the bigger words right there, ready to be said. But something told him to wait, to let this moment be enough without rushing it. I love who we're becoming together. She smiled like she understood exactly what he wasn't saying yet. Me too. Sleep well. You too. And Evelyn? Actual sleep. 8 hours minimum. You're very bossy about self-care. Someone has to be. She was still smiling when she walked to her car, and Caleb stood in his doorway watching her leave, feeling like everything he'd been afraid to hope for was finally, carefully, becoming real. The following Saturday arrived with the kind of perfect spring weather that felt like a gift. Caleb and Maya showed up at Evelyn's house to find her already in the garden, kneeling by the milkweed with her phone out, clearly photographing something. "It happened," she called out before they'd even reached the gate. "The chrysalis opened this morning. The butterfly emerged about an hour ago." Maya dropped her backpack and ran, Caleb following at a more measured pace, his heart warm at seeing Evelyn this excited about something that had nothing to do with quarterly earnings or market share. Sure enough, clinging to a leaf near where the chrysalis had been was a perfect monarch butterfly, wings still slightly crumpled, drying in the morning sun, orange and black patterns vivid against the green. "Oh, wow," Maya breathed, instantly pulling out her journal. "It's so beautiful. Can we watch it? The first flight is the most important part." They settled on the grass, all three of them, and watched in reverent silence as the butterfly slowly pumped fluid into its wings, strengthening them, preparing for a life it had been transforming toward for weeks. Evelyn sat between Caleb and Maya, and at some point her hand found Caleb's, their fingers interlacing naturally. After 20 minutes, the butterfly's wings were fully extended, and with a movement so subtle they almost missed it, it lifted into the air. Tentative at first, then stronger, more confident, until it was soaring above the garden in wide, graceful circles. Maya's eyes were shining with wonder. That's what all that waiting was for, all that transformation, so it could fly. "Worth it, though," Evelyn said softly. "Don't you think? All that patience and trust that something beautiful was happening even when you couldn't see it? Definitely worth it." Maya was already sketching in her journal, trying to capture the moment. "Dad, did you see how long it took before it was ready? Like, it couldn't rush it. It had to wait until everything was right." Caleb met Evelyn's eyes over Maya's head, and the parallel wasn't lost on either of them. Some transformations couldn't be rushed. Some beautiful things required patience and trust, and the willingness to wait until the timing was right. They spent the rest of the morning in the garden, watching the monarch explore its new world, documenting other butterflies that visited, Maya explaining migration patterns to Evelyn with the confidence of an expert. Around noon, Evelyn suggested lunch, and they moved to the deck where she'd set out sandwich fixings and fresh fruit. "I have something I want to talk to you both about," Evelyn said as they ate, and there was nervousness in her voice that made Caleb pay closer attention. "I've been thinking about what you said, Caleb, about making room for people alongside work, and about balance and priorities and building a life instead of just maintaining a company." "Okay," Caleb said carefully. So I made some changes this week. Big ones. She took a breath like she was preparing for a presentation. I promoted my VP of Operations to Chief Operating Officer and gave her authority over day-to-day decisions. I hired a second assistant to handle the constant scheduling chaos. And I established a new policy. No work emails after 7 p.m. or on Saturdays unless it's a genuine emergency. The kind where something is actually on fire, not just metaphorically. Caleb's eyebrows rose. That's significant. It's terrifying. I've spent 12 years being the person who handled everything personally, who was available every hour, who made every decision. Letting go of that control feels like stepping off a cliff. Evelyn's hands were shaking slightly. But I realized I have two choices. I can keep doing things the way I've always done them and eventually lose everything that actually makes life worth living, or I can trust the incredible people I've hired and make space for the things I've been too afraid to want. Maya looked between them, picking up on the weight of the conversation. Does that mean you'll have more time for Saturday garden visits? Yes, and for weeknight dinners, and for being present instead of constantly distracted by work. Evelyn turned to Maya directly. I know I'm not your mom. I'm not trying to be. But I care about you so much, and I want to be someone reliable in your life. Someone who shows up and keeps promises and is there for the important moments. Maya's expression was serious, thoughtful. You already do that. You came to my soccer game last week even though you had meetings. You helped me with my butterfly project presentation. You remember that I don't like olives on my pizza. She paused. My mom never remembered stuff like that. She didn't really try. The admission hung in the air, painful and honest. Caleb's hand tightened around his glass, old wounds responding to his daughter's simple truth. Evelyn's eyes glistened. Then I promised to keep trying, to keep showing up, to keep remembering the olive thing and every other thing that matters to you. Okay, I promise too, to tell you when I need you and to understand when work is really important and to keep teaching you about butterflies. Deal. Evelyn extended her hand formally, and Maya shook it with equal seriousness before dissolving into giggles. After lunch, Maya went back to the garden to check on their monarch, giving the adults a moment of relative privacy. Caleb helped Evelyn clear the table, both of them moving in the synchronized way they'd developed over the past months. Are you sure about these changes? Caleb asked quietly. I don't want you to restructure your entire life and then resent it later. I'm sure. Terrified, but sure. Evelyn set down the plates she'd been carrying. The thing is, I've been so focused on not losing my company that I didn't realize I was losing myself. The person I wanted to be, the life I wanted to have, I sacrificed all of it for success. And success is hollow when you're alone. You're not alone anymore. No, I'm not. And that's scary in its own way because now I have something to lose that actually matters more than hard analytics. She stepped closer to him. I'm in love with you, Caleb. With you and with Maya and with the life we're building together. I needed you to know that before I say the other thing. Caleb's heart was pounding. What other thing? I want this to be permanent. Not rushed, not forced, but intentional and real and moving toward a future together. Her voice was steady despite the fear in her eyes. I know it's only been a few months. I know that's fast. But I've never been more certain of anything than I am of this. Of us. Evelyn, you don't have to say it back right now. I just needed you to know where I stand, what I'm working toward, what all these changes are really about. She took his hand. I'm creating space in my life for you, for a future that includes family dinners and Maya's birthday parties and lazy Sunday mornings and all the ordinary, extraordinary things I've been missing while I was busy conquering the business world. Caleb pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her. I love you too. I've been in love with you since you stood on your porch in the rain, watching me fix that light, and looked like you'd forgotten what it felt like to trust someone. I just didn't want to rush you into anything you weren't ready for. I'm ready. I'm so ready. She pulled back to look at him. But we should probably talk to Maya. Make sure she's actually okay with this becoming more serious. She asked me last month if I was going to marry you someday. Evelyn's eyes went wide. She what? Said she wouldn't be mad about it if I did. That you have good friend qualities and know about butterflies, and those were important factors. She's 7 and already has better relationship clarity than most adults. Evelyn laughed, slightly hysterical. Okay.
So Maya's on board, that's good. Very on board. She's been dropping hints about wanting a bigger family, specifically mentioned that her friend Sophie has a baby sister, and isn't that nice? Oh no, are we talking about kids? Is this the kids' conversation? I'm not ready for the kids' conversation. Caleb kissed her forehead. We're not talking about anything right now except the fact that we love each other and we're building something real. Everything else can wait until we're ready for it. But you'd want that? Eventually? More kids and the whole family thing? With you? Yes, when the timing is right and we're both ready and we figured out how to blend our lives together. He smiled, but there's no rush. We've got time. Evelyn relaxed against him. Time. Right, we have time. I need to remember that transformation can't be rushed. Someone wise told me that once. I think she learned it from studying butterflies. They stood there on the deck, holding each other while Maya's voice drifted up from the garden, narrating her observations to the plants. The moment felt suspended, perfect, like the pause before a butterfly's first flight, full of potential and promise, and the certainty that something beautiful was about to take wing. The weeks that followed tested Evelyn's new boundaries in predictable ways. There were moments when work demanded more than her allocated hours, when crises arose that genuinely required her attention, when old habits pulled at her to solve everything personally. But each time she caught herself, made different choices, delegated instead of controlling, trusted instead of micromanaging, and slowly, incrementally, she found her rhythm. Maya's 8th birthday arrived in early June, with Evelyn having been part of their lives for 4 months. They returned to the Butterfly Conservatory as promised, but this time with Maya's grandmother, Caleb's 2 brothers, and their families, and 3 of Maya's closest friends from school. Evelyn had helped plan everything, coordinated with the conservatory for a private tour, arranged for a butterfly-themed birthday cake, created goodie bags with butterfly books and magnifying glasses. You didn't have to do all this, Caleb said while watching Evelyn help Maya's friends identify different species. I wanted to. She's important to me. Her happiness is important to me. Evelyn glanced at him. Is it too much? I sometimes worry I'm trying too hard. It's perfect. You're perfect. She's over the moon. Susan Mercer approached them with the assessing look mothers reserve for people dating their children. So you're the famous Evelyn. Maya talks about you constantly. Good things, I hope. Mostly about butterflies and how you let her use your garden for research and how you remember she doesn't like olives. Susan's expression softened. But also about how you make my son smile more than I've seen him smile in years. That matters more than butterflies. He makes me smile too. Both of them do. Good. Then you're welcome at family dinner next Sunday. Fair warning, though. My other sons will interrogate you about your intentions. They're very protective. Evelyn looked mildly panicked. Should I prepare a presentation? Susan laughed. Just be yourself. If you can handle boardrooms, you can handle the Mercer boys, probably. The family dinner the following Sunday was exactly as advertised. Loud, chaotic, full of good food and pointed questions disguised as casual conversation. Caleb's brothers, Mike and Patrick, were friendly but clearly evaluating whether Evelyn was serious about their baby brother and his daughter. So you run a tech company? Mike asked over Susan's pot roast. I do. Data security and corporate risk management. That's impressive. Must keep you busy. It does, but I'm learning to prioritize better. Make room for life outside of work. Patrick exchanged a look with Mike. That's good. Caleb and Maya deserve someone who's actually present, not just physically around while mentally somewhere else. The challenge in the statement was clear. Evelyn met it head on. You're right, they do deserve that. And I'm working every day to be that person. She looked at Caleb, then at Maya, who was coloring at the kids' table. I spent 12 years building a company and forgetting to build a life. Meeting your brother and his daughter reminded me what actually matters. I'm not perfect at balance yet, but I'm trying. And I'll keep trying because they're worth it. The honesty seemed to satisfy Patrick. Mike nodded slowly. Fair enough. Just don't hurt them. Maya's been through enough with her mother leaving. I have no intention of leaving. I'm in this for the long term. Susan raised her wine glass. Then welcome to the family, Evelyn. We're loud and opinionated, and we will absolutely call you out if you're screwing up, but we're loyal to the people who are loyal to us. I can work with that.
As summer progressed, the relationship deepened naturally. Evelyn started keeping clothes at Caleb's apartment for nights she stayed over after Maya was asleep. Caleb had a drawer at her house for the weekends they spent there. Maya's butterfly research expanded to include Evelyn's entire garden, which Evelyn had expanded specifically to attract more species. They navigated their first real fight in August, a disagreement about whether Evelyn should take a business trip to London that would make her miss Maya's first day of third grade. It was heated, honest, and ended with Evelyn delegating the trip to her COO, and Caleb acknowledging that he sometimes expected her to choose them over work when work was actually important. "I need to trust that you'll tell me when work genuinely needs you," Caleb said during their resolution conversation. "And you need to trust that I'll tell you when we genuinely need you. We can't operate on assumptions." "Agreed. Communication over assumptions. I can do that." "Good. Because I really don't want to fight with you. I'm terrible at staying mad." "You're pretty bad at it. You apologized first even though I was the one being unreasonable." "You weren't being unreasonable. You were struggling with competing priorities. That's different. How are you so understanding all the time?" "Practice. And the fact that I love you too much to waste time on grudges." She kissed him then, soft and sweet, and whispered against his lips, "I love you too. So much it sometimes scares me." "Good scared or bad scared?" "Good scared. The kind that means this matters more than anything else." On a Tuesday evening in late September, Caleb got home from work to find Evelyn's car already parked outside his apartment. She had a key, had for months, but she rarely used it during the week, usually called first, coordinated schedules, maintained some level of boundaries around his time with Maya. He found them in the kitchen together, Evelyn helping Maya with math homework, while something that smelled incredible cooked on the stove. "Hey," he said, surprised but pleased. "I didn't know you were coming over tonight." "Surprise dinner night," Maya announced. "Evelyn's making that pasta thing we had at her house, and she's helping me understand fractions because they're terrible and make no sense." "Fractions are very logical once you understand the concept," Evelyn said, but she was smiling. She looked up at Caleb. "I hope this is okay. I had a light day at work and I wanted to see you both, and I thought maybe I could be useful." "It's more than okay." Caleb kissed her hello, then looked at the homework. "Fractions, huh? The eternal nemesis." "Dad, you're not helping." "Sorry, Butterfly. Evelyn's definitely more qualified to help with math than I am." They ate dinner together like they'd done it 1,000 times. Easy conversation. Maya's elaborate stories about playground drama. Evelyn's carefully edited updates about work. After dinner, Evelyn helped with bath time, read part of the bedtime story, and tucked Maya in alongside Caleb in a routine that had become comfortably theirs. In the kitchen afterward, washing dishes side by side, Evelyn said quietly, "I've been thinking about something, a big something," but Caleb's heart rate picked up. "I'm listening." "My house is beautiful and expensive, and I've poured a lot of money into making it perfect, but it's also huge and empty, and it doesn't feel like home the way this apartment does." She set down the dish she'd been drying. "And I keep thinking about the future, about when Maya's older and needs her own space, about how this one bedroom works now but won't work forever, about building something together instead of having separate spaces we travel between." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe we should think about finding a place together, something that's ours, not yours or mine. Somewhere with enough room for all of us, with a real garden for Maya's butterflies, close to her school and your work sites and my office." She turned to face him fully. "I'm saying I want to build a home with you, both of you, if you want that too." Caleb set down the pan he'd been scrubbing, taking a moment to let the magnitude of what she was offering settle in. "You want to move in together?" "More than that, I want us to be a family, officially, legally, permanently." Evelyn's hands were shaking slightly. "I know we should probably wait longer, do things in the traditional order, but I've never been very good at traditional. And I know what I want. I want you and Maya in my life every single day. I want to wake up next to you and help with homework and navigate the chaos of raising a child together and build something real." "Evelyn Hart, are you proposing to me while we do dishes?" "Maybe. I don't have a ring and I'm doing this completely wrong, but yes. I'm asking you to marry me, to let me be part of your family legally as well as emotionally, to build a life together that includes weekend pancakes and butterfly research and corporate crises and construction projects and everything in between. Her eyes were bright with unshed tears. So, yes, I'm proposing. Very badly, apparently, but with complete certainty that you're what I want for the rest of my life. Caleb laughed, pulling her into his arms. You're not doing it badly. You're doing it perfectly. And yes, absolutely yes. Really? Really. I've been in love with you since you opened your door in that silk robe looking like you were ready to fight the world. I'll marry you and build a home with you and navigate every chaotic, beautiful moment together. She kissed him with something that felt like relief and joy and promise all tangled together. When they broke apart, she was crying and laughing at the same time. We should tell Maya. She should be part of this decision. She's going to lose her mind with excitement. Good excited or overwhelmed excited? Good excited. She's been asking me if you're going to be her stepmom since June. She has? She's very invested in this outcome. Has been from the start, actually. Pretty sure she saw this coming before either of us did. They told Maya the next morning over Saturday pancakes, Evelyn's first attempt at making them, which resulted in slightly misshapen but enthusiastic dinosaurs. We have something to tell you, Caleb started, but Maya interrupted immediately. You're getting married. I knew it. Sophie's mom said when adults are happy like you guys are, they usually get married. Can I be in the wedding? Can we have butterflies? Are we going to live together? Evelyn laughed, tears in her eyes. How do you know these things before we say them? I pay attention, so can I. Be in the wedding and help pick the house and everything? Absolutely. You're part of this family. You get a say in all of it. Maya launched herself at both of them, wrapping her arms around them in a three-person hug that felt like the future solidifying into certainty. This is the best news ever. Wait until I tell Grandma. She's going to be so excited. She told me last month that Evelyn was a keeper and that you should lock that down, whatever that means. Your grandmother is very direct, Caleb said. She says it's because she's old and doesn't have time for games. Can Evelyn help me with my butterfly presentation next week? And can we paint my room in the new house? And can I have a dog? Everyone says when you get a bigger house, you can have a dog. Slow down, Butterfly, one thing at a time. But Maya was already planning, already imagining, already building the future in her mind with the confidence of a child who'd learned that good things could happen if you were patient and trusted the process of transformation. The engagement was announced to the broader world through simple means. No press release, no social media announcement, just quiet conversations with family and friends. Susan Mercer cried and hugged Evelyn so hard she could barely breathe. Caleb's brothers congratulated them with genuine warmth. Evelyn's small circle of close friends expressed surprise but approval. The Heart Analytics team found out when Evelyn called an all-hands meeting and introduced Caleb and Maya to the people who made her company run. They're the reason I've been saner and happier these past months, she told the assembled employees. They remind me why we do this work, to protect the things that actually matter. Family, connection, trust. And they've taught me that being a good leader means modeling healthy balance, not heroic sacrifice. They spent October house hunting, a process made chaotic by Maya's insistence on evaluating each property's potential for butterfly gardens, and Caleb's contractor eye-catching every structural issue. Evelyn made spreadsheets comparing locations, school districts, commute times, and property values. Together, they found a house that needed work but had good bones. A 4-bedroom craftsman with a huge backyard, front porch perfect for morning coffee, and a location equally convenient to Maya's school, Caleb's main work area, and Evelyn's office. It needs a lot of renovation, Caleb warned as they walked through the third time. New kitchen, updated bathrooms, the deck is a safety hazard, and I'd want to add a sunroom off the back for Maya's homework and Evelyn's occasional work-from-home days. But it could be perfect, Evelyn said, seeing the potential beneath the problems. It could be exactly what we need. Then let's make it perfect. Together. They closed on the house in November and spent weekends working on renovations. Caleb handling the construction with help from his brothers. Evelyn learning to paint and tile with surprising enthusiasm. Maya documenting the transformation in a new journal she titled Our Family Home Project. The wedding was planned for spring. Small, intimate, focused on the people who actually mattered rather than corporate contacts or social obligations. They chose the Butterfly Conservatory because of course they did, because that's where Maya's birthday had been, where Evelyn had first felt like part of something bigger than her company. December brought their first Christmas together, decorating the partially renovated house, Maya insisting on a tree in every room. "It's our first Christmas here. It should be special." Evelyn discovering she actually enjoyed holiday cooking when she had people to cook for. Caleb's entire family came over for Christmas Eve dinner in the house that was still more construction site than home, and nobody cared because it was full of love and laughter and the promise of what it would become. On Christmas morning, Maya opened presents in the living room that didn't have furniture yet, sitting on cushions from the old apartment, surrounded by the people who'd become her family. Evelyn gave her an advanced butterfly identification kit with professional-grade equipment. Caleb gave her a telescope for backyard stargazing, and together they gave her something else. Adoption papers, already filed, just waiting for final approval. "What does this mean?" Maya asked, staring at the official documents. Evelyn knelt beside her. "It means that if you want, I can officially adopt you, be your mom legally as well as in every other way that matters. You'll have two parents again, a family that chose you deliberately." Maya looked at the papers, then at Evelyn, then at Caleb. "I get to choose?" "You absolutely get to choose," Caleb said. "This only happens if you want it." "Will I still be Maya Mercer?" "You can be Maya Mercer, or Maya Mercer Hart, or anything you want. Your name is your choice." Maya thought seriously the way she did about important decisions. Then she launched herself at Evelyn with enough force to knock her backward. "Yes, yes, I want this. I want you to be my mom. I want us to be a real family." Evelyn held her tight, crying openly now. "We're already a real family, sweetheart." "This just makes it official." Susan Mercer wiped her eyes. "Well, that's the best Christmas present I've ever witnessed. Someone get a photo of this before I completely fall apart." Winter turned to spring with the house transforming room by room into something that reflected all three of them: Caleb's practical craftsmanship, Evelyn's aesthetic sense, Maya's butterfly obsession evident in the artwork and garden plans. The adoption was finalized in February with a small courthouse ceremony that Maya insisted on documenting thoroughly. The wedding followed in April with 75 guests who actually mattered, butterflies released during the ceremony, and Maya serving as junior officiant alongside the actual judge. Evelyn wore a simple dress that Maya had helped choose. Caleb wore a suit his brothers had insisted on buying him. And when they said their vows, Caleb promising to keep showing up, Evelyn promising to keep trying, both of them promising to build something beautiful together, there wasn't a dry eye in the conservatory. Maya stood between them, holding both their hands, and when the judge said, "You may now kiss," she added loudly, "Finally! I've been waiting months for this part." The laughter that followed was pure joy. The reception was in the garden of their almost finished house. Strings of lights above the deck Caleb had rebuilt, tables scattered across the lawn, butterflies visiting from the milkweed Maya and Evelyn had planted together. Hart Analytics employees mingled with construction workers. Susan Mercer traded embarrassing childhood stories with Evelyn's college roommate. Maya danced with anyone who'd dance with her, her dress covered in grass stains within an hour. As the sun set and the party continued around them, Caleb and Evelyn stood on their new porch, the one he'd built specifically for moments like this, watching their families blend and celebrate. "We did it," Evelyn said softly. "We built this. We did. And it's just the beginning. I used to think success meant running a company that nobody could take from me, building something that would last beyond me, making my mark." She leaned into him. "But this is success. This family, this home, this life we're creating together. Everything else is just work. Important work, though. Work that matters. But not more important than this. Never more important than this." She turned to face him. "Thank you for seeing me that night, for fixing my porch light and changing my locks and showing up over and over again until I remembered how to let someone in. Thank you for opening the door, for letting a stranger with a misdelivered package completely rearrange your life. Best misdelivery ever." Maya ran up to them, pulling on both their hands. "Come on, they're about to cut the cake, and I promised Grandma I'd get you for the photo." They let her pull them back into the celebration, into the noise and joy and beautiful chaos of a life they'd built together from courage and patience and the willingness to trust that transformation was possible. Later that night, after the guests had left and Maya was asleep in her new room in their new house, Caleb and Evelyn sat on the back porch under the stars. The porch light above them, the one Caleb had installed himself, properly secured with weatherproof casing, glowed steady and bright. "Do you ever think about how different things would be if that box had been delivered to the right address?" Evelyn asked. "Sometimes, but I don't think it was really about the box. I think we were both ready for something to change. The universe just gave us the excuse we needed. The universe and the incompetent postal service. Them too." Evelyn rested her head on his shoulder. "I love you. I love this life. I love that we're doing this together." "I love you too. All of you. The CEO. The woman who panics about butterflies landing on her shoulder. The person who makes spreadsheets about house hunting. The mom who's learning to braid hair even though you're terrible at it. I'm getting better at the braiding. You're getting better at all of it. At being present. At letting people in. At trusting that you're enough without the armor. I had good teachers. A construction worker who understood that fixing things meant more than repairs. A little girl who saw me as a person before she saw the company. A family that welcomed me even when I didn't know how to be part of one." She lifted her head to look at him. "I used to think I had to choose between success and happiness, between achievement and connection. But you taught me that was a false choice, that the strongest people are the ones who let themselves need others. And you taught me that it's possible to rebuild, that just because something ended badly doesn't mean you can't try again, that love is worth the risk even when you're terrified." They sat together in the quiet of their garden, under the steady porch light, surrounded by the home they'd built and the life they'd chosen. Inside, Maya slept peacefully, dreaming of butterflies and the family that had chosen her just as deliberately as she'd chosen them. The glass house on Riverside Drive had been sold to a young couple with their first baby, people who would fill it with life instead of loneliness. Evelyn didn't miss it. This house, their house, with its creaky floors and renovation projects and butterfly garden, was worth more than any amount of architectural perfection. Kit's phone buzzed with a text from his mother. "That was a perfect wedding. Welcome to the family officially, Evelyn. I'm proud of you both. And tell Maya that Grandma expects butterfly garden photos every week." Evelyn's phone buzzed with a message from her COO. "Congratulations! Everything's handled at the office. Don't even think about checking email for the next 2 weeks. That's an order from your second in command. Enjoy your honeymoon." They looked at each other and smiled. 2 weeks without work emails, Evelyn said. "That's terrifying. That's healthy. And we're spending them right here working on the house and the garden and being a family. Best honeymoon ever." "You think Maya will let us sleep in even one day?" "Absolutely not. She already told me we're starting butterfly monitoring at dawn tomorrow." Caleb laughed, pulling her closer. "Then I guess we should get some sleep." "In a minute. I want to stay here a little longer. Remember this moment, the end of the beginning. Or the beginning of everything else. That too." Above them, the porch light burned steady and bright. The first thing Caleb had ever fixed for Evelyn, the small repair that had led to everything else. It would burn through the night, a beacon in the darkness, proof that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness opened doors to transformations nobody could have predicted. Inside their home, surrounded by love and possibility, 3 lives that had been separate had become irrevocably intertwined. A single father who'd rebuilt his life from ashes. A CEO who'd learned that success without connection was just well-decorated loneliness. A little girl who taught them both that families weren't just born. They were chosen, built, nurtured with patience and courage, and the certainty that some things were worth the wait. The porch light stayed on through the night, steady and unwavering, illuminating the path they'd walked together and the infinite possibilities still ahead. And in the morning, when Maya came running out at dawn with her butterfly journal and infectious enthusiasm, when Caleb made pancakes while Evelyn learned to braid hair, when all 3 of them headed to the garden to check on the monarchs that were just beginning their migration, that light would still be burning. Not because it needed to anymore, not because darkness was threatening or danger was near, but because some lights, once turned on, were meant to keep shining, not to ward off the night, but to mark a place where people came home to each other, where transformation was honored, where a misdelivered package and a broken porch light had led to the kind of love that rewrote the future into something none of them had dared to dream alone. The light stayed on. The family grew. The butterflies returned every spring to the garden they'd built together. And Caleb Mercer, standing on his porch at dawn with his wife and daughter, watching monarchs dance in the morning sun, knew with absolute certainty that he'd fixed more than a porch light that first night. He'd found his way home,